The storm that battered Bravos that night seemed a sign. Sea spray lashed the wide bronze doors of the Iron Bank, and copper lanterns guttered in the wind like coins on the verge of rolling away. Within the marble-floored counting hall, torchlight gleamed over hardened faces. Men and women raised among ledgers, debt hooks, and quiet threats. No one spoke of mercy here. Mercy earned no interest. At the long ebony table sat the 11 keyholders. Their black velvet robes rustled softly, like ravens shuffling upon a single branch. Piles of parchment lay before them, royal seals pressed in crimson wax, trembling under the draft. The sigils of kings and queens, of lions, stags, roses, krakens, and dragons, stared up at the men and women who owned them all. Tycho Nestoris stood, straight-backed and spare, his salt-flecked beard trimmed to the width of a coin's edge. He touched the glass sphere before him, an empty account orb once filled with golden beads, then let his fingertips rest upon it, as if testing the pulse of Westeros herself. "The throne," he said, voice precise, "is past due. We have granted extensions, we have accepted partials, we have allowed excuses to mount like snow upon the Titan's shoulders. Yet the debts grow fatter, the payments leaner." He looked to his colleagues, finding in every stony pair of eyes an echo of his own resolve. The realm is at war. 5 crowns compete and all seek coin. But gold is not conjured by wishes. The Iron Throne, once richest seat in the world, now writes promises in blood and sends crows to beggars' roosts. If we continue lending, we risk everything. If we withdraw, we risk nothing. We simply collect. A murmur rippled through the hall. No dissent, only dark agreement. Across the table, Emberl Roger of Lys folded her pale hands. "Repossess a throne?" she asked, half smiling. "We are lenders, not kingslayers. We are whatever the numbers command," Tycho replied. "The throne is an asset. Assets can be seized." A younger keyholder, Mathis Otherys, frowned. "Seized by force? The Lannisters still command the city. Their armies are tired, underpaid, and drowning in promises," Tycho said. "Ser Kevin writes that Casterly mines run thin. Lord Mace Tyrell grows restive. Dragonstone's fires burn again under the Red Woman's gaze. Riverrun bleeds, the North howls, Dorne sharpens knives. What if, instead of choosing sides, we remove the board? Kings will still fight, but they will fight beneath our banner, owing rent for every sword they raise." Silence followed. Outside, thunder rolled over the waves. Tycho lifted a quill. "I propose we initiate Clause 17, total reclamation of defaulted collateral. Dispatch a fleet. Hire the Golden Company to serve as impartial custodians. Appoint a Bravosi governor in the Red Keep to administer revenues until the principal, with interest, is satisfied. Let us remind the world what iron means." One by one, the keyholders pressed their seals into hot wax upon the parchment. A motion, a decree, a covenant made of cold steel and colder arithmetic. When the last seal hissed, Tycho exhaled. "The Iron Bank," he murmured, "always gets its due." In King's Landing, dawn rose bruised and blood-hued. Black smoke from distant siege fires crawled across the sky. Cersei Lannister, hair shorn and regrown in gilded curls, stood upon a balcony that smelled of ash and sour wine. Below her, the Red Keep's courtyard heaved with refugees. Small folk who had fled the Riverlands, Stormlands, Reach, any land whose lord demanded levies of coin or sons. They knelt in ragged rows, waiting for bread that never seemed enough. Yet their eyes still lifted to the distant throne room, to the rumors that gold would soon flow again. Cersei clutched a letter. The wax bore the Titan of Bravos. Inside, polite words carved with razors. "Do notice of default. Grace period expired. Exécuteur en route." She crumpled the parchment. "Bravosi vultures," she spat. "They think to frighten me with ink and seals? I have wildfire. I have Drogon's ashes staining the dragon pit. Let them come." Ser Boros Blunt lingered near the door, pale, shifting from foot to foot. "Your Grace, the hand requests an urgent audience." "My dear Uncle Kevin?" She laughed, though it sounded brittle. "He'd rather buck modesty than bear my debts." Truth be told, she needed him. The crown's coffers were hollow drums. Tywin's gold was gone, buried with him beneath the sept's marble. The Reach withheld further loans until its troops saw victory. And here, in her grasp, the Iron Bank threatened repossession like a landlord evicting a drunk. She inhaled. If the Braavosi meant to seize, they would need more than ledgers, they would need swords. And swords could be bought or burned. The Lannisters still paid in blood gold. Across Blackwater Bay, at Dragonstone, wind thrashed against ancient stone dragons whose jaws opened to the sea. Beneath their silent roars, Stannis Baratheon paced the painted table. The candles made his gaunt face a dying ember. Davos Seaworth stood beside him, fingers twitching where once they had been cut. The Onion Knight had brought news. Red sails upon the horizon, Braavosi galleys, heavy with mercenaries. "They march not for us, but for the throne," Davos said. "Rumor says they mean to claim the debts of King's Landing." "It is the duty of a true king to settle old accounts," Stannis replied, though the words tasted like ash. He had considered borrowing from the Iron Bank himself. Now the bank chose its own moment. If Cersei falls to them, so be it. But if Braavos seats a steward in my hall before I have taken it. Melisandre drifted into candlelight, red silk whispering. "The Iron Bank worships only the cold god of gold," she said. "Yet even cold gods may serve the Lord of Light's design. Fire consumes, ash remains. From ash, a new order rises." Stannis's jaw clenched. "Lawloress riddles will not bury my enemies." But he wondered, could he bend the Braavosi to his cause? Alone, repaid in just rule? Or would Tycho Nestoris yoke every claimant to interest until none could draw breath without paying? Far to the east, across the narrow sea, Daenerys Targaryen stood upon the deck of a merchant cog, staring toward the setting sun. She was not yet a queen in Westeros, only a rumor carried by spice merchants, mother of dragons, breaker of chains. But news traveled on salt winds. She had heard whispers that the Iron Bank had turned its gaze west. "They will fund whomever wins," Jorah Mormont said beside her, the steady rumble of his voice like surf against hull. "But if they seize the throne outright, that is new. Gold is a chain thicker than any shackle," Daenerys replied. Her dragons, grown and hungry, screeched above the mast. "If they cage the Iron Throne, they cage my birthright. We sail for Meereen, gather strength, but the game shifts. Perhaps, rather than break a wheel, I must pay its maker." She thought of the coin gifted to her by a Braavosi banker months ago, a thin disc of iron, stamped with a brazen titan. He had said, "Speak my name at any Iron Bank door and be heard." She wondered how loudly coin could speak when backed by Dragonflame. On the King's Road north of Harrenhal, Arya Stark rode alone, cloak dark with rain. She had heard the tales. An invading bank, repossession. Even for a girl forged by death, the notion felt strange. Kings toppled not by blades but by balance sheets. She recalled the musty treasury beneath the Red Keep, chests of gold dragons stacked like childhood dreams. Had Lannister gold run so short? Was the realm truly ruled by coin? She spurred her horse. Whatever bankmen wanted, the people would suffer first. She vowed that if Braavosi collectors bled the small folk, she would add their names to her list. Debt or no. 3 weeks later, the Braavosi fleet split the Blackwater, sails spreading like ravens' wings across a silvery dawn. 70 war galleys, iron-bound and sharp-prowed, flanked massive cog carriers whose holds brimmed with armored sellswords. The Golden Company, straight-spined under banners of the four-headed dragon with crosskeys entwined. Harrowed veterans of Essos stepped onto the quays in perfect files. Each mercenary paid triple wages in advance. Their commander, General Miles Toyne, lean, dark-eyed heir to exiles, carried a roll of parchment thicker than his sword's blade. It bore the Iron Bank's claim, stamped with 11 seals. No horns of conquest sounded. No flags of a new king rose. Instead, Braavosi clerks unfurled scrolls and posted them upon every gate. Notice of reclamation. All crown revenues hereby diverted. All royal property subject to audit. Cooperation ensures leniency. Refusal ensures liquidation. The words were bloodless, yet barbed. King's Landing woke to find a new army encamped outside its walls. Mercenaries polishing pikes, Braavosi scribes erecting tally tents, port stewards sealing wine casks under bank sigils. Fishermen bringing catch to the city were told to present 1 in 10 fish to Braavosi recorders. Chandlers were forced to account for each candle shipped to the Red Keep. Gold cloaks tried to intervene. The Golden Company disarmed them with calm efficiency, escorting Sir Adam Marbrand to the Great Sept steps and handing him a receipt for his surrendered sword. Panic flickered in every alley. Cersei convened her small council, such as remains, bellowing. They bar my ships, tax my streets, demand my ledgers. They erect scaffolds for counting coin in front of the sept like common peddlers. This is my city. Kevin Lannister adjusted his spectacles, voice grave. Your Grace, we have defaulted on 36 loans. The interest alone rivals annual harvest tithes. The Braavosi claim is legal by Westerosi law. Your father himself consented to Clause 17. Then my father was a fool, she snapped. Yet in her gut, fear coiled. Wildfire caches might burn them, but flame offered no gold. Ravaging the city would leave ashes for vultures. She paced, skirts swirling. Very well. We negotiate. Offer them Lannisport revenues. Offer them Highgarden's future taxes. I care not, only that the throne remains mine. But that afternoon, Tycho Nestoris delivered his reply in the throne room itself. Accompanied by 2 Golden Company captains, he strode across the marble floor while Cersei glared from atop the Iron Throne. Tycho's steps rang quieter than whispers, his dark boots immaculate. He bowed with Braavosi courtesy, then unrolled a parchment longer than a king's sword. Your Grace, he said. For 3 generations, the Lannisters borrowed sums totaling 11 million golden dragons. The agreed collateral, assets of the monarchy, including but not limited to the throne, crown lands, ports, and associated incomes. Non-payment grants us custodial authority until debt satisfaction. Effective immediately, the Iron Throne is under receivership. You may remain as local steward under our oversight, provided you follow these terms. He slid a slim booklet of pages across the steps, terms worse than chains. Cersei's fingers dug into the throne's leonine armrest until her nails bled. You dare. Tycho's eyes never wavered. We dare only what your signature empowers. Refuse, and we shall appoint another steward, perhaps Lord Tyrell, or Queen Asha of the Iron Islands. We have no preference so long as revenues flow. He gestured toward the throne. The asset remains, whosoever occupies it. In that moment, Cersei felt the Iron Throne shift beneath her, no longer a seat of power but a debtor's bench. For years she had feared dragons, Northmen, assassins. Never had she feared a parchment. Beyond the city, armies watched with wariness. In the Riverlands, Walder Frey scoffed that no bank could seize his crossing. Yet his sons began counting their coin. In the Reach, Mace Tyrell sent envoys offering chests of gold lilies to bravos, eager to curry favor. Doran Martell and Sunspear measured possibilities. If the throne buckled, Dorne might negotiate debts for vengeance. On the Trident's banks, Roose Bolton feigned allegiance to the crown while calculating that a bank's writ meant little to flayed men. Yet he, too, owed coin, for sellswords, for grain, for armor rivets wrought in distant Qohor. If the Iron Bank could reach the Red Keep, could it not also reach the Dreadfort? High in the north, Jon Snow read ravens in Winterfell's drafty hall. He pondered what kingdom meant if coin, not blood, chose rulers. Sansa, now Lady of Winterfell in all but crown, pressed a finger to a letter. If the throne is forfeit to a bank, the great houses may choose independence more easily, she whispered. Freedom, purchased by default. Yet debts wound through noble veins like poison. Weeks stretched into months. The Braavosi integrated into city life. Clerks sharing ale with fishwives. Mercenaries hiring local smiths to polish their armor. They paid on time in silvers minted fresh. Small folk began to favor their counting tents. where one could exchange copper stars for food vouchers good at any baker who accepted bank scrip. The Crownland's treasury, lean and corrupt, struggled to compete. When the bank announced a bread stipend for orphans, sermons in the sept decried them as usurers, yet queues wrapped around the pillars. Power shifted subtle as tides. The people obeyed those who fed them, not those who crowned them. Even the gold cloaks accepted Bravosi wages, their loyalty purchased coin by coin. Circe seethed. She called her pyromancers, whispered of green fire beneath the city. But Kevin counseled caution. Destroying the bank's men would invite universal reprisal. War with Bravos meant war with every free city that relied on its coin. The realm, already splintered, could not survive such wrath. Desperation birthed strange alliances. A secret raven flew to Dragonstone. Stannis read it twice. The queen offered him half the kingdom's revenues in exchange for force enough to drive the bank away. Melisandre's red eyes gleamed, seeing in the flames two thrones, one of iron, one of debt. Choose wisely. In Meereen, Daenerys weighed similar letters. The bank invited her to bid upon the throne's lease. Bid? She murmured, outraged. As though my birthright were a stable horse. Yet Yora counseled, seize the opportunity. Fund your fleet with Bravosi credit. Let them pit their ledgers against Lannister pride. But Daenerys, breaker of chains, would not trade one chain for another. She envisioned ships gilded with dragonfire, not debt. The first sparks flew in Flea Bottom. A drunk mason, denied entrance to the Iron Bank's grain store because his voucher had expired, hurled a stone at a Bravosi clerk. Golden Company guards responded, swords drawn. Gold cloaks arrived late, confused whose law to follow. The brawl spread like wildfire in straw. Small folk shouting that coin ruled their bellies, not kings. Others screaming that foreign usurers stole their city. Stall fronts shattered, torches fell, and the sky turned orange. On the fourth night of riots, a Bravosi counting house was torched. 8 clerks died, trapped behind locked iron grates designed to protect coin. Tycho ordered patrols doubled. Circe declared martial law, but her edicts depended on soldiers now paid by Bravos. Confusion reigned. Atop the chaos, whispers ran. The crown plotted to burn the bank. The bank plotted to dethrone Circe by dawn. Stannis landed secretly at Duskendale with Sel's words. Daenerys sailed from Meereen with 1,000 ships. Truth blended with rumor, but one certainty rose. War no longer concerned banners alone. Debts fought alongside swords. Whoever mastered both would rule. Deep beneath the throne room, in Maegor's hidden passages, Qyburn met with Circe by candlelight. A cold draft rattled ancient chains. Your Grace, he said, I have studied their contracts. If the collateral is removed, the bank's claim collapses. Without the Iron Throne, there is no asset to repossess. She frowned. Destroyed. Replaced, Qyburn whispered. An iron chair melted, reforged, scattered. They cannot seize what no longer exists. Circe's eyes glinted. Wildfire could do it. But wildfire beneath the keep might ignite half the city. Let it burn, she murmured, then hesitated, recalling the Mad King's fate. Her children, Myrcella buried, Tommen gone. Only power remained. To lose the throne to coin felt worse than Dragonfire. Yet if the Iron Bank could be cheated by flame, no, she decided, we will corrupt the bank from within, not incinerate them. She summoned Lord Varys, though he had vanished, and found instead Balerion. No, a rumor of tunnels, of secret vaults where Mad King Aerys hoarded wildfire jars. She weighed risk and reward, every calculation tinted by fear of Bravosi ledgers. And all the while, Tycho Nestoris quietly expanded control. Gold cloaks rebadged as custodial enforcers. City taxes redirected to bank treasuries. Harbor masters replaced by Bravosi controllers who levied docking fees in doubled rates. Trade still flowed, perhaps more orderly than before, but each coin clinked into coffers that did not belong to the crown. In the Reach, Lady Olenna Tyrell quipped, "Best bankers I've ever seen. They bleed a lion for us." Yet she dispatched Maester Paxter Redwine to Bravos with jewels enough to buy shares of the debt. "If you cannot shape the game," she said, "own the board." In the Vale, young Lord Robert Arryn wondered if the Eyrie, perched so high, might sprout a Bravosi counting house of its own. Peter Baelish assured him it would, for a price. In the Iron Islands, Queen Asha sharpened axes. "A throne repossessed is empty," she told her captains. "Let us steal what remains when the bankers sail home." In Dorne, the sand snakes watched caravans cross the Boneway, coin flowing north like a river of molten gold, and prepared to dam it with poisoned spears. Yet somewhere in the woods near Riverrun, Brienne of Tarth found Podrick Payne reading a bank notice nailed to an oak. It listed fees for crossing certain bridges, tolls owed to bravos, and penalties for non-payment. Pod looked at Brienne, bewildered. "Sire, do we owe a bank to hunt for Lady Sansa?" Brienne tore the parchment away. "We owe our oaths. Coin be damned." But she felt a chill. When debt writes law, vows may hold no value. Winter crept south. Snow dusted the Red Keep's ramparts, shocking in its hush. In the throne room, Tycho met with Cersei Daly, reviewing ledgers. She sat upon the Iron Throne, still hers in name, but a Bravosi steward now counted taxes beside her, stamping each decree. It felt as though she were Queen of Shadows, her commands echoing unheard. One night, strolling the gallery above the throne, Kevin asked Tycho softly, "What becomes of a kingdom ruled by bankers?" Tycho considered. "A kingdom ruled by its own promises," he said. "We only collect, but every promise demands blood to keep," Kevin replied. "You reckon debts, we reckon sons." Tycho's expression remained unreadable. "Then pay with wisdom, not sons." "Easier weighed than done," Kevin sighed. Beyond the walls, Stannis Baratheon landed troops at Driftmark. The Iron Bank's claim complicated his cause. Yet if he could seize King's Landing, he might renegotiate. He met with Bravosi envoys in secret, offering strict repayment schedules in exchange for their neutrality. Tycho listened, fingers steepled, promising to consider all options. Stannis, unnerved, wondered if the bank now played contenders like game pieces, each move earning another percentage of interest. And Daenerys? She sailed west at last, dragons roaring beneath a gray sky. She refused Bravosi coin but welcomed their curiosity. If they repossessed one throne, they could riposte another. She vowed to melt iron and debt alike in Dragonfire. Thus the stage set. A city held by a queen whose throne no longer belonged to her. A bank fielding armies. Rival claimants circling like wolves around a great, gold-chained carcass. On the first day of the year's last moon, the Titan of Bravo's flags rose atop the city's harbor towers. From a distance, their copper sigil looked like a thunderbolt splitting dawn. Small folk cheered. They saw order in the banker's rule, while nobles fumed, stripped of tithes. In the royal sept, the High Septon preached that coin had become idle. Yet even he accepted Bravosi coin to repair the cracked dome. Cersei watched from her balcony, rage simmering. In her hand lay a small glass vial filled with wildfire. If she could not hold her throne, perhaps she would leave nothing for bankers to seize. But her uncle's counsel, her own twisted memory of Tommen's leap, stayed her hand for now. Tycho, across the courtyard, recorded inventory. The number of swords in the throne room, the grain count in the granaries, even the iron links of the maester's chains. Each ledger line tightened a noose. And so, as winter deepened, gold became the sharpest blade in Westeros. Battles still raged at Moat Cailin, at Fair Isle, at Maidenpool, yet each commander stared southward, wondering who truly held power, the queen behind iron or the bankers behind quills. Night settled over the Blackwater. Bravosi lanterns bobbed on the water, cold stars reflected in ink. Somewhere in the dark, two shadows met. One tall, robed in scarlet. One thin, cloaked in mottled gray. Melisandre and Varys, their voices hushed as tides. The Red Woman spoke of the Lord's designs. The Spider spoke of realm and chaos. They discussed the Iron Bank's move and what fires might cleanse, what whispers might corrupt. Neither trusted the other, yet both agreed. A throne in balance could be tipped by one breath. Varys asked, "If gold rules, what place for prophecy?" Melisandre smiled, eyes glowing. "Prophecy may be paid in flame, not coin." The wind carried their words away. Somewhere overhead, a dragon cried across the sky, heralding a future no bank could ledger. And so the tale begins, of coin and crown, of warring debts and warring swords, of a throne weighed, bought, and perhaps broken. The Iron Bank has made its move. The great game now turns upon promissory notes as keen as Valyrian steel. Winter has come, and with it an accounting unlike any before. Yet within the cold of coins and contracts, hearts still beat, blades still sing, dragons still burn. The story of repossession is only just opening its ledgers, and many balances remain unpaid. A thin veil of dawn clung to King's Landing like a half-remembered dream, the winter air sharp as a banker's quill. Along the street of steel, forges lay cold. Braavosi excisemen had requisitioned most of the charcoal stores for their own armories, leaving local smiths to huddle over dying embers and curse debts they had never signed. A boy darted past, clutching a crust of bread stamped with the Titan's sigil. Behind him lumbered a one-legged beggar, bellowing that the mother wept for coins given to usurers. No one listened. The city had learned to keep its head down, as if the very cobblestones were writing ledgers beneath its feet. Inside the Red Keep, Cersei Lannister paced a privy corridor scented with damp plaster. Qyburn followed at her heel, arms full of scrolls, each a new indignity. The Iron Bank had posted tariffs on wine shipments from the Arbor, doubled harbor duties for ships carrying Reach grain, and hired Braavosi quartermasters to advise the royal kitchens on portion control. In effect, they starved the queen in her own palace while paying the small folk just enough copper to praise the new order. "Tell me again," Cersei hissed, "how an army of scribes and sells words bends a realm to parchment." Qyburn offered a thin smile. "Fear of hunger sways more hearts than fear of swords. Then let them fear fire." She produced the phial of wildfire she had hidden in a secret pocket, the green liquid flickering like a malignant emerald. Qyburn's eyes widened. "One drop upon marble could burn the keep from within," he whispered. "But the Braavosi would claim the ashes all the same. They would levy a fee for removal of rubble, charge interest on rebuilding." Cersei's knuckles whitened around the glass. "They cannot rule what no longer exists. They can, if they decree the realm indebted to pay for its own burial." Qyburn cleared his throat. "If I may suggest, corruption works in subtler shades. A bank is only as strong as the trust people grant it. Fracture that trust, the ledgers break like rotten boards." Cersei paused. "How? Proof of fraud, forgery, usury beyond agreed rate. Catch their scribes altering figures. Expose the Golden Company stealing from Seps. Plant rumors that Tycho has been bribed by Stannis. Once the small folk believe the bank no holier than a whorehouse, the throne may reclaim moral ground." "Moral ground," she echoed, almost laughing. But hope, tarnished though it was, tasted sweeter than wildfire. In the counting courtyard below the White Sword Tower, Tycho Nestoris watched soldiers drill. The Golden Company's discipline pleased him. Rows of spears glittered beneath weak sunlight, boots thudding in perfect cadence. Yet his gaze drifted toward the city walls, where Braavosi banners now hung beside tattered lion standards. Too conspicuous, perhaps.
Occupation bred ressentement.
But results mattered. In 8 weeks, tariffs had filled coffers with more dragons than the crown had collected in a year. Already 11% of the principal debt had been repaid. Numbers sang a song sharper than any lute. Still, he sensed currents swirling. Angry whispers in brothels, pamphlets accusing the bank of cheating waits, rumors of a secret ledger that forgave debts for bribes. False, of course, yet perception might prove costlier than interest. He summoned Imberl Rogaire, who brought news of riots in Cobbler's Square. 3 Braavosi clerks beaten senseless by a mob accusing them of inflating grain quotas. "Public sentiment must be managed," Tycho murmured. "Send barley from our stores to the poorest districts. Let the city see our generosity." "And the Queen's agents?" Imberl asked. Buy them or silence them. Coin spoken softly can drown any shout. But behind his calm, Tycho recalled the Titan's own rule. Storms may test stone. He wondered if winter and dragons would test ledgers as well. Beyond the Blackwater, at Storm's End's shattered causeway, Davos Seaworth met a Braavosi sloop under flag of truce. The captain delivered a chest of ledgers for Stannis, figures proving Cersei's soaring deficits. Tempting bait. Davos returned to his king, boots crunching over frost-rimmed timbers. Stannis studied the papers in silence, lips drawn thin. If Braavos hoped to lure him with numbers, they misjudged his pride. Yet numbers did not lie. Their control of the city grows, Stannis muttered. Cersei strangles on their purse strings. Davos hesitated. If your grace struck now, you might bargain repayment on your own terms. The people may welcome a liberator from bankers. Stannis's eyes burned. I will not trade one master for another. What use is a crown refluxed through ledgers? If I take King's Landing, the debt dies with the usurer. But, sire, the debt binds the realm's faith. Void it and trade could collapse. Then the realm learns austerity. Stannis slammed a fist upon the painted table. Tell the fleet, prepare for sail. We attack by moonrise, when Braavosi galleys guard the harbor mouth. We slip upriver and cut their supply barges. Starve their counting houses, starve their authority. Melisandre stepped from shadows, eyes catching flame. The night will favor the righteous. But know this, steel alone will not slay a god of coin. You must burn their faith. Stannis stared at her, uncertain whether she spoke metaphor or wildfire. Either would scorch. Far to the northeast, beneath the cracked ramparts of Harrenhal, Arya Stark crouched amid ruins, eavesdropping on a pair of Golden Company scouts warming soup over a brazier. Their conversation drifted of arrears and arrears again. Captain Toyne dispatching riders to collect tithes from Fry Holdings, a Braavosi tallyman flogged for underreporting confiscated silver. Arya's fingers twitched toward needle. But killing 2 mercenaries would do little. Exposing the bank's cruelty to small folk might do more. She tracked their patrol to a village where children traded sticks for scraps. When the Sellswords seized grain sacks to offset royal deficits, Arya swept in at night, slit a sergeant's throat, and whispered to the survivors, "The Iron Bank steals food. Tell every inn and sept along the Trident." She left a lion-sigilled coin upon the corpse. Small folk would blame both queen and bank, and seeds of rebellion would spread like milkweed on northern winds. At Riverrun, Ser Brynden Tully received refugees bearing such tales. The Blackfish listened, steel-gray brows knit. If the bankers make enemies of the people, their ledgers turn useless parchment. He dispatched ravens to every river lord. Offer shelter to those oppressed by Braavosi collectors. Spread word that houses loyal to the Starks reject foreign debt. Hearts, he knew, bled faster than coffers. Meanwhile, aboard the Great Cogwind's Grace 2 days west of Volantis, Daenerys Targaryen watched sea spray mist over Drogon's onyx scales. Her flagship plowed through waves, a column of sails behind. Myrine's galleys, Carthian cogs, even 3 ironborn longships sworn to her cause. In her cabin, she consulted with Tyrion Lannister, whose wine-dark eyes flicked across maps of the Crownlands. The Iron Bank's occupation may prove blessing or curse, he mused. Your dragons inspire awe. Braavosi gold inspires obedience. If you arrive as breaker of both debts and chains, the people will adore you. But Tycho has surely hedged. Some arrangement with Lords of the Reach, perhaps letters of credit to Dorne. He holds levers unseen. Daenerys traced a route past Dragonstone, and you hold insight into your sister's rage. Cersei would burn the city before yielding to bankers, or to dragons. Expect wildfire caches primed beneath sept and street. She met his gaze. We fly first, torch their galleys, but spare the counting houses. I would show the world my wrath falls upon those who bind with iron, not upon the innocent. Tyrion nodded, though privately he wondered if flame could ever discriminate. Back in King's Landing, the High Septon convened a mass in the Great September of Baelor. Thousands gathered, anxious and cold. The holy man preached of two debts, one of coin to bravos, another of sin to the gods. He urged alms for the poor, but also urged the Iron Bank to forgive interest in the name of mercy. Tycho's envoys attended, stone-faced. Forgive a dragon? They would sooner forgive snow it's cold. Yet that sermon birthed talk of a faith militant resurgence, a holy army to defend Westerosi sovereignty from foreign usury. Novices donned woolen stars and patrolled streets, escorting beggars to soup lines and scrawling seven-pointed sigils over Bravosi tax edicts. The Golden Company tolerated them at first, but when a zealot smashed an abacus over a tallyman's skull, tolerance ended. Executions followed, swift, orderly, heads rolling before ledger entries had cooled. That blood fueled the faith's ire. Whispers named Tycho Coin King and cursed him in nightly prayers. Cersei watched the sparks from behind latticed windows, uncertain whether to stoke or smother them. One frost-cleft dawn, a messenger burst into the counting courtyard. Stannis' fleet had slipped the bay, cutting northward under cover of fog. 3 Bravosi grain barges burned on the Blackwater's upper reaches, sails aflame like fallen comets. Golden Company outriders galloped to the city, reporting Bolton banners massing at the Twins and Fry levies refusing the bank's tithe. Tycho summoned an emergency council of keyholders in the throne room itself, now lined with scroll shelves. Emberl Rogaire spoke first. Stannis tests our supply. Without grain, the city starves. Our revenues cease. Mathis Otherys argued, we must open negotiations, reduce tariffs to win the small folk. Tycho heard them, but his gaze remained fixed on the Iron Throne's jagged silhouette behind Cersei's seat. So long as that chair existed, collateral remained. But dragons converged, wolves clawed, faith stirred. He turned to Queen Cersei, who lounged with feline disdain. Your Grace, the city requires calm. Issue a decree praising our shared stewardship. Cersei's smile cut like broken glass. Your stewardship, you mean? She rose, skirt sweeping. Very well, King's Landing will calm, or it will burn. The choice rests on coin, does it not? Her parting laugh echoed off marble vaults, leaving the keyholders uneasy. Within the hour, Tycho ordered a contingent of Golden Company knights to escort wagons of grain into Flea Bottom at reduced price, each loaf stamped with a Bravosi rose. Riots subsided for a day. Mothers wept in relief. Bakers blessed the Titan. But come nightfall, cloaked figures, Mance riders, infiltrators traveling south, torched the wagons, crying, debt is bondage. Flames devoured the grain, and hungry bellies howled louder than before. Cersei, learning of the blaze, blamed the bank. Tycho blamed northern saboteurs. The small folk blamed whoever failed to feed them next. Miles away, in the haunted ruins of Summerhall, Samwell Tarly and Gilly sheltered beside cracked stone where once dragons hatched. Sam studied crumbling ledgers salvaged from Maester Aemon's archives. In faded ink, he found references to a charter predating Aegon's conquest, a treaty between Bravos and the Seven Kingdoms acknowledging debtor rights. The charter contained a clause, forgotten by time, allowing the faith of the Seven to nullify any foreign claim if debts imperiled the salvation of Westerosi souls. Sam's heart pounded. If the faith invoked this clause, the bank's entire repossession could be declared heretical. He wrote hastily, quill scratching, a letter to Jon at Winterfell, to Sansa, to every Septon with influence. Hope rustled like old parchment, ink against iron. North of Maidenpool, Brienne of Tarth and Podrick crossed paths with the Brotherhood without banners, now led by Lady Stoneheart. They spoke of Bravosi levies hanging small folk who failed to pay tolls. Stoneheart's silent vengeance fixed on foreign collectors. She ordered raids against counting stations, liberating grain, but also executing clerks. Brienne felt her duty tug, protect the innocent, even if Bravosi. Yet each justice bred new shadow. Pod whispered, Sire, the war is no longer Lannister against Stark. It is pockets against purses. Brienne sighed. Then we must defend lives, not ledgers. They rode on, heavier than before. At sea, Daenerys' armada neared Storm's End. The The sky churned iron gray. Drogon sensed battle's scent. She convened her captains. We sail straight for the Blackwater. The Iron Bank's fleet is lighter toward Fairweather moorings. Our Unsullied will storm the quays. The Dothraki ride through King's Gate. Tyrion, you find the counting houses. Chain their coffers open and let the gold pour into the streets. Grey Worm saluted. It will be done, Khaleesi. Tyrion, rolling a peach between fingers, mused. If we scatter coins among hungry mouths, Braavos loses leverage overnight. But the Golden Company will fight to keep their pay chests. Then they shall face dragons, she said. On a rain-slick night, Stannis' hosts encamped at the mouth of the Rose Road, 3 leagues from the city. Fires flickered under tattered stag banners. In his command tent, Stannis studied scout reports. Daenerys' fleet approaching from southeast. Braavosi galleys repositioning. Lannister forces thin along the walls. An opportunity yet fraught. Melisandre watched flames dance atop a brazier, seeing shapes. A crimson dragon coiling around an iron-crowned stag. A coin melting into wildfire. The Lord shows me a throne of ash and snow, she whispered. Claim it before it crumbles. Stannis glowered. I claim what is mine by right. The bank claims it by right of coin. Cut their purse, and the throne falls into your hands. How? Burn their ships. Burn their ledgers. Without proof of debt, they have no hold. Stannis' stare hardened. Destroying records meant condemning future trade. But he had come to wage war, not keep accounts. He issued orders. 7 longboats packed with pitch barrels would row into the Blackwater by midnight, slipping past Braavosi patrols. Davos objected, too many innocents might die, but Stannis' resolve was stone. War spares none, he muttered. Better fewer burned ledgers than thousands bled for interest. Midnight descended like a raven's wing. Fog rolled along the river, muffling oar splashes. The smuggler in Davos still found stealth easy. He guided Stannis' boats between sleeping galleys, past braziers where half-frozen Braavosi marines dozed. They reached the bulk grain barge Titan's Trust, largest of the bank's floating storehouses. Davos's men set pitch kegs, lit fuses, and cast off with pounding hearts. Flames blossomed orange, licking up rigging. Sailcloth shrieked. A trumpet blared. Golden Company archers loosed arrows that hissed into black water. But the fire leapt vessel to vessel, river blooming with light until Blackwater Bay looked a great burning mirror. Smoke towered above the city, crimson reflections painting the Red Keep's windows. From her balcony, Cersei watched in horrid wonder. Wildfire, no river fire. Still, it pleased her to see Braavosi grain burn. Tycho, awakened, hurried to the harbor walls. His fleet officers doused flames, but losses mounted. 5 granaries, 2 pay galleys, precious ledgers soaked or charred. He clenched fists, whispering clauses of insurance. Yet insurance did not replace goodwill. Tomorrow, bread lines would starve again. Blame would seep into cracks the Queen had pried open. As smoke still curled, Daenerys' fleet breached the bay at dawn. Braavosi patrols, scattered by the night's chaos, struggled to regroup. Drogon's roar shattered morning. Black wings sluiced through ash, torching mastheads. Unsullied leapt to piers, shields raised. Dothraki screamed across gangplanks, sabers flashing. On the walls, Lannister guards gaped. Enemy of enemy. Friend? Uncertain whether to fight Braavosi or Dragon Queen. Tyrion disembarked near the mud gate, cloaked and quick. He led a wedge of Second Son's mercenaries through alleys toward the Iron Bank's principal counting hall. Golden Company pikemen barred the bronze doors. A trumpet cried. Tyrion raised a torch. By order of Queen Daenerys Stormborn, he shouted. All ledgers are seized in the name of the people. The Sellswords laughed until Drogon's shadow fell. They broke, scattering like seeds in gale. Tyrion smashed a window. Unsullied stormed in, binding clerks, flinging parchment stacks into the street. Small folk emerged, eyes wide, as gold dragons. Deliberately toppled from coffers, skittered across cobbles. Tyrion beckoned. Take your due. he called. And they did, men, women, children scooping coin in desperate handfuls while shouting praise to the Dragon Queen. Overhead, Daenerys circled astride Drogon, silver hair streaming. She guided him not toward the Red Keep but over the main harbor, where burning galleys still smoldered. A single blast of dragonfire finished what Stannis' pitch had begun, sending up a column of steam and hissing iron. Braavosi commanders screamed. Sailors leapt into churning water, and Tycho Nestoris, watching from the city walls, felt for the first time the chill of genuine fear. Debts could be tallied, dragons could not. Within the Red Keep, pandemonium erupted. Gold cloaks loyal to Queen Cersei skirmished Golden Company detachments retreating toward counting houses. Faith militant brethren stormed armories to seize crossbows. Servants fled. Somewhere deep, Qyburn moved jar by jar, repositioning wildfire caches, just in case queen or bank or dragon overreached. Cersei ascended the Tower of the Hand, clutching a torn raven message. Grains ablaze, dragons in harbor, Braavosi lines broken. She laughed, a wild, fractured sound. "Let them butcher each other," she whispered. "When ash settles, the throne will still be mine." But she underestimated the power of hunger. Small folk, emboldened by free coin, flooded streets, raiding warehouses, dragging Braavosi scales into gutters. Some turned on Lannister tax offices too, torching ledgers of both bank and crown. Disorder fed on itself until the city became a roar. Amid that roar, Arya Stark slunk through shadows, needle bare. She had followed rumors of a red priestess guiding a king's fleet. Stannis, perhaps a lesser evil than Iron Bank or Cersei. But now a dragon queen perched above even them. Names on her list blurred, who deserved death more? Maybe she would gift them all to the many-faced god. For now, she hunted Braavosi overseers beating small folk in the chaos. She found a collector swinging a ledger like a club. One thrust of needle ended his debts forever. She whispered, "Vala Morgulis," and slipped away. In the harbor, Golden Company ranks rallied at last under General Toyne, forming shield walls against unsullied spears. Battle rang, harsh and bright. Drogon could not strafe too close without killing her own. Daenerys landed near the fish market to oversee. Grey Worm fought like a bronze statue come alive, driving phalanxes forward. Between mercenaries, Stannis' vanguard burst through Fire Gate, banners of the Fiery Heart flapping behind. 3 armies now clashed, sellswords for coin, unsullied for queen, Baratheon men for rightful king. All within a city that still owed debts to winter. Tycho, retreating to the Iron Throne room with codices hugged tight, found Cersei already there, wildfire file glowing in her palm. Their gazes locked. He raised parchment as shield. She raised flame. "Stand aside," Cersei hissed. "Or burn with your ledgers." Tycho's voice trembled but held. "Destroy the throne and you destroy the realm's credit. Every trade route will collapse. Your people will starve. They starve already. Better ashes than chains." A tremor rocked the keep, dragonfire striking outer towers. Dust sifted down. Tycho took a step forward, extending a single page. Clause 41. Insurance, any deliberate destruction voids repayment. "You die queen of nothing." Cersei's hand shook, but in that instant, a crossbow bolt thudded into the wall between them. Ser Robert Strong, Qyburn's hulking creation, loomed in the doorway, weapon raised at the banker. Cersei smiled thinly. "I need no wildfire." Struck silent, Tycho lowered his parchment. The monster advanced. Elsewhere in the keep, Tyrion hurried along secret passages, led by memories of childhood mischief. He sought the throne room to confront his sister, perhaps to parley surrender. Instead, he found Varys emerging from a panel, breathless. The spider pressed a finger to lips. "Wildfire caches rigged under the sept," he whispered. "If Cersei loses, she will ignite." Tyrion swallowed. "Then we must stop her before the bankers or Stannis. Force her hand." Or, Varys glanced behind. "Let the Iron Bank and Queen destroy one another. A dragon queen may rebuild from ruin." Tyrion scowled. From ashes you may raise a new order, but the small folk will choke first. They hurried on together, fate crossing threads once more. Outside the city walls, Sansa Stark's envoy, Ser Robert Glover, arrived with a white-winged raven. He carried Sam Tarly's charter clause. Presenting it at the camp of the Faith Militant, he urged Septon Maribald to invoke spiritual veto on the bank's claim. Maribald agreed, dispatching brothers to ring sept bells at high noon, proclaiming the repossession sacrilege. Bells tolled, clanging over battle noise, confusing soldiers and small folk alike. Some Golden Company men, pious undulls, hesitated to strike holy men. Lines faltered. Tycho, hearing the bells, realized the ground shifting under ledgers. Faith could not be bought. Fear could not be financed if souls rejected coin. He needed victory, decisive, immediate, or all interest in the realm would default to anarchy. Near the Gate of the Gods, Stannis' bannermen fought toward the Gold Road but met unsullied ranks instead of Lannisters. Confusion reigned. Ser Justin Massey shouted parley. A Myrinese interpreter relayed to Grey Worm. They realized both sought to depose Cersei and curtail Braavos. An uneasy truce formed. They wheeled against Golden Company flank. Two armies became allies by circumstance, pressing Sellswords back toward the Red Keep. Daenerys, watching, saw opportunity. Align with Stannis for now, crush bankers together, then decide throne later. She landed near his banner. Stannis, helm smeared with soot, regarded the Dragon Queen warily. She offered curt nod. "Your enemy is my enemy today." "Today?" Stannis echoed. "Tomorrow." His jaw clenched. "Tomorrow we meet in council," she said. "But first the Iron Bank falls." He accepted. So swords realigned. Sellswords felt paymasters falter. Their shield wall wavered. General Toyne, realizing he fought alone, ordered retreat into the Red Keep's outer ward. There, Cersei's lions blocked gate, unwilling to grant passage. Chaos erupted as mercenaries battered doors they once guarded. Tycho, cornered, attempted to rally them with promises of double wages, but coins sounded hollow against dragon roars overhead. Inside the throne room, Ser Robert Strong raised his blade to cleave Tycho. The banker braced. Then a quarrel from a shadowed gallery pierced the monstrosity's visor. Sandor Clegane stepped into light, face half-healed but grim. "I owe your brother one, Cersei," he rasped, pulling a second bolt. The mountain staggered. Qyburn's creation bellowed. Cersei screamed. Tycho darted aside as Sandor leapt down, swinging a torch onto Ser Robert's helm. Fire whooshed. The giant stumbled, void seeping from blacked eye slots. Cersei fled toward a side passage, wildfire in hand. Tycho scrambled after, catching her sleeve near the Kingsguard cloakroom. She whirled, glass raised. In that moment, the ground tremored, outer walls breached. She lost grip, the file slipped, cracking on stone. Green vapors hissed. Tycho shoved her away, cloaking her head. The liquid flared but did not ignite. Thank the gods for damp air. They tumbled, dazed. Tyrion and Varys burst in, took stock. Sister stunned, banker coughing. Tyrion exhaled. So much for negotiations. Varys lifted the broken file shard. One spark and Braavos and Lannister both pay final interest. Tyrion knelt by Cersei. The city's lost, dear sister. Yield before wildfire claims us all. Her eyes opened, blazing hatred. Never. I will not kneel to Dragonspawn or Pauper. But footsteps echoed, Grey Worm and Davos entering with Unsullied and Baratheon guards. Behind them came Daenerys in scorched armor, and Stannis grim as winter. Two claimants stood side by side, glaring at each other, then at the queen whose reign crumbled. Tycho rose, smoothing singed robes. "I demand safe conduct," he declared to them all. "The Iron Bank will reassess its position once stability returns." Daenerys answered, voice soft as storm. "Your grasp on the realm's throat ends. The people choose freedom over debt." Stannis growled. "The Iron Bank backed the wrong throne." Tycho stiffened. "The Iron Bank backs numbers. Thrones change. Debt remains." Not today, Daenerys said. She approached the iron throne, blades of welded steel gleaming. She did not sit. Instead, she placed a hand upon its cold edge and spoke to Stannis. Will you share rule until the realm heals? We convene council. Lords, small folk, faith, even bravos, draft new accords. Stannis looked reluctant, but Davos murmured by his side. After a taut silence, Stannis nodded once. I will parley. Tyrion exhaled relief. Varys allowed a rare smile. Sandor, leaning on crossbow, muttered, bloody bankers, bloody queens. Cersei slumped, spat blood. Parley? You will regret mercy. Daenerys' gaze hardened. Mercy is not weakness. Dragonfire taught me that. She turned to Unsullied. Secure her. Treat her as prisoner, not trophy. Grey Worm obeyed. Cersei's shrieks echoed as she was led away, echoing down halls once gilded by her power. Tycho watched, calculating. His ledgers burned or seized, yet the bank could salvage debt from treaties with new rulers. He bowed stiffly. The Iron Bank will discuss terms. Daenerys inclined her head. Ensure grain for the city first. Waive interest on small folk debts. Then perhaps we talk of crowns and contracts. Tycho nodded, mind racing. She demanded what threatened Braavos' heart. Yet refusal might doom all. The Titan had faced storms before, but never a dragon and stag united. Stannis stepped to the throne's foot, gaze climbing its twisted swords. He sheathed his blade. 5 kings bled for this chair, he murmured. Now a bank has lost it without a battle worthy of song. Daenerys replied, let our song be of rebuilding. Outside, bells tolled again. Septon bells now mingled with harbor bells signaling ceasefire. The smoke thinned, revealing winter sky deep and blue. Small folk trickled into squares where Unsullied shared bread reclaimed from burning galleys. Children chased golden dragons that rolled from torn purses, laughing. For a moment the city breathed, yet far above, on a frost-kissed parapet, Arya Stark watched with gray eyes. Debts erased, queens allied, still names remained. She whispered one now, bankers, another, queens, another, liars. Perhaps peace would bloom, but vengeance rooted deeper. She slid needle into sheath and vanished into snow-laden roofs. Night fell, calm yet restless. In the throne room lit by guttering torches, Daenerys and Stannis seated themselves at a long oak table, an impromptu council. Tyrion, Davos, Grey Worm, Melisandre, Varys, and Tycho stood witnesses. A scribe, ironically Braavosi, prepared a new ledger, blank page waiting. Daenerys spoke first. By right of conquest and claim, I propose joint stewardship of the realm until a great council may choose the crown. She fixed Tycho with unwavering gaze. The Iron Bank shall hold no collateral greater than its ships. Interest on royal debt is suspended for 1 year, reduced thereafter by half, provided grain shipments resume within a fortnight. Tycho's lips twitched. Generous terms for the crown. Generous terms for the people, Tyrion corrected. And for Braavos, alive debts are preferable to dead kingdoms. Stannis drummed fingers. I demand the faith's charter invoked. Nullify repossession and place the throne outside foreign lien forever. Melisandre added, flame cleanses debt as well as sin. Tycho hesitated. Davos leaned close. Accept, or your collectors will drown in these streets come dawn. The banker weighed parchment against blood. He bowed. The Iron Bank will consider. Stannis slammed palm. Consider nothing. Agree, or we break your fleet's knees. Daenerys raised a hand. Peace. Braavos may send envoy to Braavos for full ratification. Until then, hostilities cease. She extended a scroll. A provisional charter prepared by Tyrion. Sign or forfeit future enterprise in Westeros. Tycho read swiftly. His quill hovered. Finally, he signed. At that moment, outside windows, a lone horn sounded deep, mournful. From the North Road arrived riders bearing a flayed man banner. Roose Bolton's army, delayed by winter storms, approached with intent unknown. Peace trembled on a precipice. Daenerys exchanged glance with Stannis. We have new guests. Stannis unsheathed Lightbringer, blade catching torchlight. Then our council continues upon battlefield. Tycho swallowed. Ledgers closed. Swords reopened. The balance of iron had shifted yet again, and the Iron Bank would tally new debts come morning. But for tonight, the throne belonged to none and to all. The fires of coin, crown, and conscience smoldered in uneasy truce, while winter's breath sighed through broken arrows lodged in the hall's rafters. Somewhere beneath, wires of wildfire still waited, quiet and green, for some future spark. Bravo's men spoke of winter as if it were an entry on a balance sheet. Fixed, predictable, balanced in columns of snowfall and thaw. But the night that the Dreadfort banners first appeared on the King's Road, the snow did not fall in coins. It came in ragged, slanting shards that cut sight and swallowed sound. Columns of mailed men rode beneath it, their torches dying one by one until the long serpent of the Bolton host became a smear of dull iron and hoarfrost writhing toward the city's northern gate. Grey Worm saw the approach first from atop the gatehouse. He counted standards. Flayed man, flayed man, flayed man, then a scattering of Karstark sons, a half-dozen Serwyn axes, even a handful of weeping tree banners from the Risswells. 10,000 at least, maybe more hidden by weather. He sent runners along the mud-slick wall walk, calling for Queen Daenerys, for Lord Stannis, for whoever bore command in that moment. Yet the city below clanged with its own alarms. Famine riots at the fish market, a sudden blaze in the flea-bottom granaries that some blamed on Braavosi reprisal bands, exploding casks of Celtigar Redfire in the Red Keep cellars where Qyburn's last apprentices experimented with mixtures to mimic wildfire. Signal horns competed with each other until no man knew which blast meant foe and which meant fire. In the inner ward, Tyrion Lannister all but collided with Ser Davos Seaworth as both emerged from opposite passages, parchment and sword respectively in hand. Tyrion's cheeks were plastered with soot, Davos's with sleet. "Bolton," Davos panted. "He's here." "Bolton?" Tyrion echoed, grimacing as he wiped ash-clogged sweat from his brow. "As if we'd not already enough creditors. Where's the queen?" "With the other queen," Tyrion said, because that was still technically true. Daenerys Targaryen and Melisandre had sequestered Stannis in the Sept's crypts to pray for unity under whatever god would listen. And Stannis and Tycho and half the faith. If the Boltons break the walls tonight, they'll find more claimants down there than dragons up here. Davos gestured past him. "You know these walls better. Can we hold?" "We can stall," Tyrion conceded. "But stall for whom? Dragons? Dragons are roosting in the dragon pit. Rhaegal fast asleep, Viserion chained, Drogon still circling the harbor. He responds only to his mother's call, and she's too busy wooing the stag." "Then fetch her," Davos said. Tyrion pinched the bridge of his nose. "I intend to, but between here and there are an army of panicked Braavosi, faith militant half-fanatics, and my sister's pet monster loose in the corridors. If you see a blue-black knight the size of a trebuchet, kill him again for me." They parted, Davos heading for the gatehouse, Tyrion ducking low under a stone arch to reach the September rainwater dripped from cracks in the ceiling, each drop sounding like a coin falling into a deep, bottomless well. Roose Bolton rode at the head of his host, gray cloak stiff with rimed blood. Blood from the man his leechmasters had drained in the morning's rite. Blood from the strange albino weasel he had slaughtered at dusk. Blood speckled here and there from the old wound where Robb Stark's direwolf had torn the sleeve of his mail at the twins. Around him his men marched in unnerving silence, their shields ribbed with icicles. They did not chant or sing. They merely listened to snow crunch and felt the pressure of dread pulling them forward. "Harlan," Bolton called to his standard-bearer. "Signal." The man raised a horn and produced a single low note, deep and unhurried, vibrating through snow-thick air. It barely carried to the walls, yet that was enough. Every Bolton infantryman raised shield overhead. A forest of ramshorn pikes angled forward. The cavalry pushed from the rear until the column became a wedge. Ser Hosteen Fry, hulking and red-faced, drew flank to Bolton's saddle. "Are we to parley with the Braavosi squatters first, Lord Bolton?" or seize the gates and let the debts matter after? We parley, Bolton replied, but we do not dismount. His eyes gleamed like steel left in moonlight. Their ledgers are parchment, our ledgers are flesh. They will understand the distinction. They halted within arrowshot. On the battlements, Bravosi crossbowmen lined up, each man checking windage by taste of snow. Behind them shuffled gold-cloaked city guards whose morale had bled out weeks ago. Even farther back, sellswords of the Golden Company tried to form proper ranks but found footing treacherous on ice-slick stone. Bolton raised a gauntlet hand and pushed back his hood. Snow settled upon hair gray as a corpse. "I am Roose of House Bolton," he called, voice as soft as falling ash. "I come to settle accounts, mine, and my liege the king in the North King Stannis now licks boots with foreign dragons, I hear. We've claims older than any Bravosi paper and fiercer than any Lannister gold." He paused, letting the quiet gnaw. "Open the gate and I accept surrender on terms. Deny me, and we flay every debtor until books balance." On the wall Grey Worm answered, calm but resolute. "King's Landing belongs to the people now. Go north. The season is wrong for you here." Bolton's mouth curved, though not quite into a smile. "The season is always mine, unsullied," he signaled. From behind the infantry wedge, a line of catapults creaked forward, frames wrapped in sodden hides to keep ropes from freezing. The engineers loaded casks painted with blotches of pitch. Even Grey Worm, stoic as marble, felt unease. If the Bolton Lord had come prepared with wildfire of his own, all their struggles inside the city would prove worthless. But when the first cask launched, it shattered not into flame but into a cloud of white powder that billowed on the wind. Sacks of flour, rye, even barley grain burst over the parapets, dust coating Bravosi helmets in pallid film, wafting down into the streets like a phantom snowfall. Somewhere below, a starving woman cried out at the smell of bread flour. Others screamed because they thought plague now drifted through the air. Chaos rippled along the walls. Archers coughed, officers shouted contradictory orders, and on the ground small folk stampeded toward the flakes that floated down, tongues out hoping for crumbs. Roose Bolton watched with the faintest whisper of amusement. He gestured again. The next volley carried tattered tunics stripped from stark prisoners, Northman blue dyed pink by blood, tumbling like grotesque flags into the city. The message was simple. Bolton brought food, Bolton brought fear, Bolton brought a choice colder than any wind. Grey Worm's jaw set. He turned to his nearest messenger. "Signal Queen Daenerys. Enemy uses hunger." In the crypt beneath the Great September, the air tasted of damp stone and ancient candles. Daenerys stood between Stannis Baratheon and Melisandre, the red priestess's ruby glowing dull. The Cho Nestoris lingered just inside the arch, expression strained as if each heartbeat cost interest. "The flayed man marches," Davos reported breathlessly as he stumbled in. "Bolton chooses famine for sword." Stannis's teeth ground. "Of all the leal houses of the north, traitor blood spills first at my walls. Lawler sends us foes in fitting shapes." Melisandre's gaze drifted unfocused toward the vaulted ceiling. "Leech blood calls leech blood. Roose arises to drink from war's throat." Daenerys lifted her chin. "We meet him in the field, Drogon and my unsullied against their fear. But we must feed the people first. Starving mouths will bite even a queen who comes to save." Tycho broke his silence at last. "The Iron Bank can release emergency stores from our reserves at Maidenpool, marketing grain meant for repayment of Stormland's levies. If your armies escort the convoy," Stannis scoffed, "first you repossess my birthright, then you sell me my own harvest." Tycho bowed. "I lend it, at interest agreeable." Daenerys spread hands. "We cannot barter while small folk die. Release the grain as gift, Tycho. Show the bank's mercy."
"Merci yields no dividend."
"And dragons melt gold," she replied. "Consider your balance." The banker weighed her a heartbeat, then inclined his head. A gesture. "Very well. 1/3 of the Maidenpool reserve, gratis, provided order be restored within 3 days." Stannis scowled but said nothing. Davos clasped a fist to chest in thanks. Daenerys turned to leave. "Prepare the dragons," she instructed Grey Worm as he crept in behind Davos. "If Bolton wants to play with flour, we give him fire, and bread for those behind." Tyrion Lannister, meanwhile, had found the Queen Mother, his sister now prisoner, in what had once been Maester Pycelle Solar, converted by Qyburn into a chamber of tinctures and knives. Cersei sat chained to an iron chair, slender wrists rubbed raw where manacles bit, yet her eyes still burned bright with rancor. Ser Robert Strong, outer armor blackened by torchfire, lay slumped in the adjacent alcove, helm fused to charred flesh. Qyburn fussed over the corpse, muttering that death was merely another wound to close. "Come to gloat, little brother?" Cersei asked, voice hoarse but steady. "I came to borrow your monster's sword," Tyrion answered, surveying the massive blade still gripped in the ruined giant's hand. "Suppose I can't pry it free without removing his fingers." "Take him to pieces," she spat. "You've already dismantled our house." "Hardly just me." The iron bank unscrewed the last bolts. "I was only the squeaky hinge." He yanked at the sword. Flesh tore with wet sound. The hilt slid free, surprisingly well-balanced though sized for ogres. He tested weight, wincing at gore, then leaned closer. "Listen, Roose Bolton sits outside the gate brandishing bread and terror. Dragons will answer, but half the city may burn. Tell me where Qyburn stashed the wildfire and I swear, by all the gods you no longer fear, I'll plead for your life in the council after the battle." She laughed quietly. Wildfires everywhere now. Rats' nest of jars beneath the sept, casks under guild halls, little vials in brothels. A good queen spreads her eggs far. Tyrion's stomach twisted. He could not tell if she lied. "Then pray none hatch when Drogon breathes." He turned to go, lugging the unwieldy sword. Behind him Qyburn hissed, "Gentle, the creature might yet stir." "If he does, he can find me outside," Tyrion said over shoulder. "Plenty of flesh to test." On the western walls, the Bolton drums began. Not thunderous like Tyrell horns nor pounding like Stormlander kettles. These drums pulsed low, in a regular tempo, a heartbeat slowed by winter's chill. Each beat carried across the snow-lashed air, sinking beneath skin of defenders until their own hearts questioned rhythm. Grey Worms studied formation below. Bolton infantry parted to reveal tall frames on wheels, flaying racks fitted with living prisoners strapped upright, gagged with ragged wadding of their own banners. Every rack bore a lantern, sending feverish orange glow over faces pale with frostbite. The unsullied commander swallowed. Terror was a weapon he understood. The masters of Astapor had looped whips, not drums, yet the principle remained. He spotted a captive Northman. The boy looked no older than 15. Pinned backwards on a rack so cold his breath frosted hair. The lantern heat kept him from freezing entirely. Instead he lingered half-dead, eyes bulging. Every drumbeat jerked the rack a fraction, skin stretching where hooks bit shoulders. Grey Worm gripped spear shaft. Unsullied discipline taught detachment, but years beside Daenerys had taught compassion too. He nodded to an archer. The man loosed a single shaft. It flew true, mercy swift. The boy's head lolled, silent relief. Bolton riders observed, then advanced the racks further. Another volley of drums. Message received. Kill Mercy and we will provide replacements. High above, on the rookery turret, Maester Pyre of the Faith stood with Sansa Stark's Raven Charter in hand, quill trembling. He had but to dip and sign and the Faith's proclamation would finalize. Braavosi claims void, foreign occupation unholy. Yet outside the walls his cousin's husband Hother Umber marched under Bolton. Declare holocaust against one foreign scourge, invite another northern terror. His hand hovered. A bell tolled. This time the sound came not from the sept but from every Braavosi watchtower simultaneously. A clarion cry that something vast moved in the harbor. Maester Pyre turned south. The sky over the bay was ablaze with greenish red, flickering like northern lights cast through the maw of hell. Drogon burst from the dragon pit with such force that shale shingles shattered off rooftops a quarter league away. His roar drowned horns, drums, bells, even the wind. Flames washed across cloud cover, painting it the color of rubies dipped in lime. On his back, Daenerys leaned low, armored in Dothraki leather lacquered black, silver hair whipping out like another banner behind her. Regal and Viserion circled slower, chains unstrapped but still aching from months of confinement. They screamed as if greeting night anew. She guided Drogon toward the northern gate first, not to attack but to show. Bolton ranks faltered though their line did not break. Roose himself raised a hand, face calm, as if he merely noted a new line item in his ledger of war. Behind him Ramsay Snow, no, Ramsay Bolton now, howled laughter and spurred his speckled stallion forward, waving a torch in challenge. Bolton catapults cranked. Instead of rock or burning oil, they hurled more sacks, this time powdered lime intended to blind dragon eyes. Daenerys anticipated. She had seen mummers toss sand at pit wolves. She lifted reins. Drogon climbed, wing beats beating lime dust aside in swirling eddies that blotted glimpses of torch and shield. High above, she saw the shape of King's Landing. Streets like veins, the Sept's great dome cracked where wildfire caches had shifted foundation, the Blackwater still steaming from last night's fires. In harbor, melted hulls formed floating tombs of brazen galleys, bank banners half submerged like drowning pennants. She banked south and west, signaling Regal with a barked Valyrian word. The green drake dove toward the Bolton supply wagons arrayed far to rear. Viserion followed, trailing golden cream flame that hissed soft as snowfall until it touched canvas and exploded into gouts of blue-white heat. Grain stores Bolton had seized from Crownland's villages lit like torches in damp night. Roose's calm broke at last. He clenched fists as months of plunder evaporated in streaking flames. But still his infantry marched, voices raised in chilling chant. Wordless yet insistent, a pulsed hum echoing the drums. They pressed until their front rank reached arrow range of the wall. Braavosi crossbows snapped, unsullied archers followed. Lannister remnants added ragged volleys. Men fell, yet for every Bolton killed, two more advanced, stepping over bodies as though pathstones. Inside the city, Stannis and Davos surged onto the battlements with Baratheon knights. Stannis shouted for boiling oil. Davos instead ordered lines of defenders to rotate to fresh quivers lest fatigue erode aim. Both saw the Bolton siege towers edging forward now on widened sledges. Monsters of pine bound with rawhide against splitting frost. Between wall and towers sprawled the dried moat that Tyrion had once packed with spikes. Many spikes remained. More had rotted, but snowfall had filled cavities, hiding iron teeth beneath crust of soft white. The first Bolton push would break legs. Bolton engineers cared little. They whipped prisoners forward, thralls shackled in rows, each forced to push the sledge with bleeding shoulders. When the first rank stumbled into hidden spikes, screams lifted and pikes behind thrust to push again. The tower advanced, fueled by misery. Stannis' face drew taut as bowstring. He turned to a lantern man. Signal Grey Company below. Sally Port 6. We ride. Davos's mouth dropped. Ride out? Your Grace. We break his towers before they root. And we break him. Davos nodded. Then we ride. Within the Red Keep, Tycho Nestoris oversaw evacuation of Braavosi ledgers into the Trader's Walk, an irony not lost on him. Golden Company retainers hauled chests along torchlit hall as Qyburn scurried behind, begging he might keep sample jars for his practices. Tycho allowed. Better jar with him than queen with file. One clerk, eyes wide, asked, "Sir, if the dragons destroy the ledgers, all records burn." Tycho paused. "Then we memorize balances. But the world seldom forgets what it is owed." In truth, he had already dispatched duplicate ledgers east days ago by fast galley. Still, the symbolism mattered. As long as at least one book remained within King's Landing, the bank's claim persisted like a seed. He reached the Iron Throne room and halted at sight. The great chair stood empty, torchlight dancing off dark metal. Cersei had been removed, guards replaced by a single unsullied sentinel. Tycho stepped closer, fingertips itching, one moment to sit, to feel what kings felt, to note weight of power. But he resisted. An iron banker remained upright before thrones. He did not occupy them. Footsteps. He turned and found Sansa Stark, no longer cloaked as refugee but draped in stark gray trimmed with cunning crimson thread. She bore Sam Tarly's charter clause, now countersigned by half the faith militants' higher septons. Her voice carried quiet steel. Master Nestoris, the faith has annulled your repossession. Kindly withdraw your men from the city before dawn, or face excommunication. Tycho assessed her, poised, cheeks flushed by cold, eyes blue with purpose. Excommunication reduces revenue for the church, he said. Tithes rely on trade. Trade relies on credit. Faith relies on faith, she replied. The small folk believe your policy starved them. Belief outweighs credit. Tycho hesitated. The bank does not bow to shrines. You will if the shrines burn your counting houses. Leave, or be left with ashes. And I suspect the Dragon Queen will not douse those flames. Tycho dipped his head, recognition disguised as courtesy. I shall confer with my colleagues. He moved to pass. She stepped aside, yet he sensed ledger lines closing against him like jaws. Dragons, faith, wolves, stags. The board had changed beyond calculation. He hurried for the harbor. Soon another fleet would depart. Numbers could be saved though pride drowned. Bolton siege towers reached the moat's edge. First sled stalled, prisoners crushed between back ranks and iron stakes. Ramsay's laughter carried, rising above wind. He rode along lines, loosing arrows at defenders, singing obscene verses about burning Winterfell and flaying bastards. When a Bravosi bolt pierced his shoulder, he snapped it off with grin, smeared blood across his cheek, and howled for more. High on the wall, Stannis' sally port burst open. 200 heavy horse pounded down a cobbled ramp built in Maegor's time and spilled onto muddy strip at Moat's inner lip. At their head, Stannis bore Lightbringer blazing faint red, though some whispered the glow came from hidden lamp oil. Davos rode just behind, shield painted with black ship afire. Bolton infantry faltered as charging destriers crashed into outer line. Pikes braced, some split, some skewered mounts. Horses shrieked. Knights fell in piles of steel and snow. But Stannis carved gap after gap, his narrow face clenched as though hewing ledger columns. Lightbringer left steaming furrows through mail. Davos drove his sword into groin of a pikeman, yanked it free, swung again. From gatehouse, Grey Worm ordered Arrowstorm to support the sally. Shafts darkened night, guided by torch glow. Bolton's second siege tower buckled when an unsullied sapper ignited pitch at base using stolen Bravosi firepots. Flames licked wood. Tower toppled sideways, crushing an entire wedge of Bolton halberds. Roose observed, still unmoved. He lifted a hand. From rear lines marched a company clad not in Bolton pink but in Lannister crimson. Ranks of men Cersei had secretly promised him weeks back. Escapees led by Ser Adam Marbrand in hopes of new patron. They carried scorpions mounted on wheeled carriages, each arrow tip glinting greenish. Qyburn's hand again. Bolts coated in wildfire jelly. Marbrand's first shot streaked over Stannis' cavalry, missed, detonated against wall parapet in burst of emerald that sent 3 unsullied plummeting. Second bolt struck a horse. Mount exploded, scattering riderless hindquarters across muddy strip. Grey Worm realized too late what color that fire shone. He shouted for men to wet cloth masks to keep distance. On rampart above him, a jar of wildfire hidden by Cersei months earlier was caught by stray spark. It exploded, shattering Merlin and cascading liquid emerald down the crenel like waterfall. Stone screamed as it melted. Inside the city, Tyrion saw green glow rising and swore. In stable yard behind Tower of the Hand, he clutched Robert Strong's sword and barked orders at stable hands to bring barrels of sand to smother any further flare-ups. He prayed that no hidden caches lay beneath that yard. Memory said otherwise. He himself had once planned wildfire stockpiles there against Stannis. He sprinted toward the city square where Daenerys landed Drogon between charred fish stalls. People parted, some cheers, some prayers, some simply falling to knees. Tyrion yelled up, "Wildfire on Bolton bolts!" Find Ramsay's scorpions. Burn them first. She nodded. Drogon swept skyward. Tyrion leaned on sword, chest heaving. He felt older than his father, juggling debts he never owed. Roose Bolton noted dragons rise, signaled scorpions to angle vertical. 2 wildfire bolts fired nearly straight, trajectory uncertain. One grazed Drogon's left wing, scoring scales but not breaking through. The jelly fizzed, turning flake white against onyx hide without ignition. Too cold, perhaps. The viscous compound required heat to burst. Yet risk remained. Bolton gave new order. Archers with lime powder arrows volley at Dragon's eyes. Hundreds of white streaks arced upward. Drogon wheeled aside. Snow and lime formed cloud that stung nostrils of Bolton infantry instead, causing many to cough and rub tears. Viserion and regal dove upon scorpions, spouting fire that stuck glowing over jelly-laden frames. Ironically, wildfire's volatility ignited them within seconds. Towers of green flame shot heavenward, burning Bolton gunners to cinders. Ramsay retreated behind shield of mounted flares, screaming for crossbows to concentrate on horses. Some obeyed, others dropped bows to smother sparks on their cloaks. In city streets below, Tycho Nestoris pushed through panicked crowds toward Iron Bank Counting House, intent to salvage last ledgers. He was flanked by 2 Golden Company guards bleeding from earlier scuffles. As they reached marble steps, a boulder, thrown by a starving mother furious at withheld bread, struck Tycho at temple. He collapsed. Guards hesitated. Crowds surged. They fled, leaving Banker sprawling in snow dusted with green embers. The woman spat on his ledger satchel before running. Nearby, Sansa Stark directed Faith militant brethren to escort small folk into Sept crypts where food convoy from Maidenpool had finally arrived under Stark banners. She ordered broth distributed first to children and pregnant women. Gendry, long since pardoned by royal decree, pumped water from a cracked cistern-turned-cistern brewhouse to quell thirst. The people saw Stark banners, Baratheon victory songs, and Dornish oranges in crates spilled from one wagon. They tasted the realm become mosaic rather than empire. Outside, the final Bolton siege tower reached the moat, bridging gap with heavy plank lowered by chains. Over it surged Ramsay's crazed avant-garde. Skirmishers in patched wolfskins, dogs released with spiked collars, a dozen Karstark deserters wielding curved skinners' knives. Stannis' cavalry had been pushed back toward Inner Gate, horses foaming, Lightbringer flickering. Davos's arm hung limp where bolt nicked bone. They prepared last stand. Then the king in the north arrived, not Stannis but Jon Snow, riding south at lightning pace with a column of Winterfell spears and Vale knights owing allegiance to Sansa. He had traveled 3 days without stop upon hearing Bolton moved on King's Landing. Between him and Bolton's flank was open field of churned snow. He did not wait. He led charge, Longclaw raised, Ghost bounding Crimsonford beside. Bolton rear scouts cried alarm but too late. Impact of fresh Northmen into Bolton baggage crushed moral spine. Roose Bolton turned, assessing new risk. Ramsay's face lit with unnatural joy. Another wolf to skin. The battlefield collapsed into fractal skirmishes. Unsullied spears fighting shoulder to shoulder with Baratheon men-at-arms. Vale knights lancing through Bolton greatbows. Golden Company remnants attempting to extricate Tycho's ledger wagons from stampede. Faith militant brothers waiting and chanting 7-point prayer, smashing scorpion remains with morning stars. Amid it all, Daenerys hovered on Drogon, scanning for the man in pink cloak who orchestrated terror. She spotted Ramsay as he attempted to rally cavalry near Burning Tower. She angled down. Flame roared once, incinerating 2 horses. Ramsay's own mount reared, hurling him. He rolled, rose, grinning at the dragon overhead. He drew bow, knocked lime arrow, fired. The arrow clattered off scale. Drogon landed, ground trembling. Daenerys dismounted, sword unsheathed. Ramsay stared, saw a woman not much older than Sansa, yet eyes ablaze. He licked lips. "Pretty bird," he said. "Fly away before I pluck you." She advanced. He lunged. She parried. Steel rang. Ramsay fought with brutal speed but unserious posture. Each slash seemed designed to scare more than kill. Daenerys deflected, then riposted, slicing thigh. He laughed, even bleeding. "Come, break your wheel on my rack." Before he could strike again, Ghost sprang from dusk, jaws chomping around his sword forearm. Bone cracked. Ramsay screamed. Jon Snow arrived seconds later, plunging Longclaw through backplate. Steel jutted from chest. Screams stopped.
Danenreis met Jon's Kees.
First time facing not as rumor but as allies. Around them the battle's hum ebbed. Bolton lines collapsed entirely as news of Ramsay's death coursed like shock wave. Roose saw his son's end, expression unreadable even now. He signaled retreat. Several thousand still living formed ragged rearguard, withdrew north along King's Road, dragging winter behind. No pursuit came. City's defenders too weary and half remained foes to each other. Stannis lowered Lightbringer, surveying bodies. "Another false king dead," he said, yet sounded not triumphant but tired. Jon wiped blade. "Not king. Monster." Daenerys whistled. Drogon lifted. Flame-bathing corpse of last siege tower. Snow hissed to steam. Battle ended. Dawn bled rose across jagged skyline. Smoke pillars climbed, but green wildfire glow had faded. Caches had not chain-reacted after all. Either luck or Cersei's dispersal saved the city. Within throne room, a new council convened. Daenerys, Jon, Stannis, Sansa, Tyrion, Davos, Grey Worm, Melisandre, Arya, emerging from shadow like cat. Even Tycho with bandaged head supported by Emberl Rogaire. The Iron Throne itself remained empty, still streaked with soot snow. Stannis opened, enemy beaten, but rule undecided. Daenerys looked to Sansa. "The North has fought well. What does Lady Stark ask?" Sansa straightened. "The North asks freedom, or at least voice equal to any Southron. We ask debts on northern houses cancelled, our grain stores replenished, and Bolton flayed man stricken from heraldry forever." Jon added softly, "We ask justice, not interest." Tycho grimaced. "Debts cannot simply vanish." "The bank." Tyrion cut him off. "The bank's ledgers lie trampled in snow. Perhaps Bravos will rewrite them for new rate." 10% of face, Sansa offered. Tycho choked.
Impossible.
"Or 0, Jon suggested, hand resting on Longclaw pommel. Tycho regarded the empty chair behind. He calculated dragons, armies, faith decrees. 10, he echoed, defeated. 10%. Over 20 years. Daenerys faced Stannis. "And the throne? I came to break chains, not network them." Stannis eyed Iron Chair. "I will not kneel to you, Dragon Queen, but will I share Council of Regents until realm chooses by assembly." Jon said, "Assembly of Lords and Common Born both." Davos smiled faintly. Tyrion proposed structure, Great Council with seats from 7 kingdoms plus free cities observers. Tycho nodded at observer clause. Melisandre whispered of prophecy fulfilled when flames and ice co-ruled. Arya said nothing, yet her eyes tracked banker, queen, stag alike, as if weighing which names must be crossed next should promises break. Sansa quilled terms. In courtyard below, refugees received bread from Maidenpool convoy. Unsullied guarded line yet offered smiles to children. Faith militants set aside weapons to help bury Bolton dead outside walls. Flayed banners burned on pyre. Dragons roost on sept spires until roof creaked. They flew west to scavenge whales along coast. Regal dove upon sea, emerging dripping, wings beating crystalline spray lit by dawn. In the harbor, Bravosi galleys raised anchor to depart. Ledgers half-scorched but laden with new promises printed on fresh vellum bearing 3 seals. Dragon, stag, direwolf. Tycho stood on deck, hand to swelling bruise, reflecting that credit risk sometimes demanded creative collateral. He muttered to Emberl, "We invested in a throne, earned instead consortium sovereignty. Not ideal, but perhaps profitable in long horizon." She smiled. "Winter is long, interest compounding." In Red Keep, workers removed lion banners, replaced with a banner quartered, dragon, stag, wolf, and crown torch of the faith. For many it signaled hope, for others confusion, for still others dread. But for one moment, city's heartbeat slowed to rhythm of rebuilding. Circe watched from barred window in black cells, hair matted, lips split. She heard distant cheers, smelled baking bread, saw new banner unfurl. She whispered, "Soon enough, wheels turn again." In her straw lay a final shard of wildfire glass she'd hidden beneath tongue earlier, too small to ignite but sharp enough to cut. She rolled it between fingers, smile creeping. Above, Tyrion crossed throne room, hearing echo of sister's long shadow. He laid Robert Strong's sword at base of iron throne, now chipped and flecked with frost. He thought of debts, some paid, some lingering, and of cost of interest beyond coin. Daenerys stepped beside him. "Will you serve hand if council chooses?" He exhaled. "If the realm still has hands after all this, I'll lend a finger or two." Snow swirled in broken window. Over city new day painted rooftops nickel white. Somewhere, far north, another debt stirred, white walkers or lost gods or simply hunger unending. But for this day, the Iron Throne sat repossessed not by bank nor tyrant, but by fragile accord hammered from steel, fire, and hunger's cry. And so the wars of gold gave way, at least for a season, to the reckonings of hearts, harder to record yet no less binding. Winter tallied its own ledgers, and all of Westeros would soon learn the cost. Jon Snow felt the weight of the council's promises settling over his shoulders like a fresh fallen drift. He left the throne room in the gray hush before sunrise, snow and ghost padding at his heels, and descended flights of echoing stairs into a keep that still stank of smoke and fear. It was the hour when campfires guttered and watchmen's eyes grew heavy, when the wounded moaned loudest in their sleep, when ravens shifted restlessly upon their perches as if sensing winter's hand reaching farther south. He passed a line of peasants queuing for barley broth beneath the shattered balconies of Maegor's Holdfast. Some bowed, some stared. All looked hollow. A girl no taller than his sword belt tugged his sleeve and pressed an acorn carved of green glass into his palm. "For the wolves," she whispered. Jon thanked her, slipped the talisman into his cloak, and moved on, heart hammering at the knowledge that the North was already here, hungry and afraid beneath another people's sky. Atop the outer Barbican Davos waited, arm in sling, beard silvered with frost. He gestured to the plain north of the city. Dawn showed what night's confusion had hidden. The ground lay littered in Bolton corpses like black seeds spilled across a sheet of snow. Carrion crows hopped from body to body. A few tore crimson strips from the flayed man banners now trampled into sludge. Ramsay's dogs, masterless, slunk among the fallen, sniffing for their own dead, and sometimes chewing the hands that once held their leashes. Jon gazed outward. Roose still rides. 5,000 with him, maybe less. Davos winced as he shifted weight. Your charge broke their back. They'll limp north, pillaging every village that saved a crumb of grain. And the Night Fort's garrison is 3 men and a goat. Castle Serwyn, Torrens Square, scarce garrisoned and starved besides. Davos's tired eyes drifted to the pale line of the King's Road. Bolton will bleed the north while we argue charters with the Iron Bank. Jon's breath plumed white. Then we ride after him. The wall needs men more than ledgers. Let Daenerys and Stannis keep their counsel. My place is with Winterfell. You'll need writs for forage and fodder. Davos managed half a smile. Even heroes pay in coin these days. Jon looked back at the city's scarred roofs, listened to the faint clang of smiths reforging gates, the drone of septons chanting over mass graves. War was not done. It had merely changed address. Ghost raised his muzzle and growled. A second later Jon heard why. Wings overhead, a leathery thrum. Drogon descended past the burnt western gate, alighting in a whirl of cinder. Daenerys slid free of the saddle. Her cheeks were wind-raw, her braid whipped to knots, but her eyes were unbowed. Bolton retreats? She asked. For now, Davos said. He'll return when hunger drives him south again, unless hunger swallows him first. Daenerys stared at the vanishing speck of Roose's rear guard on the horizon. We must seal the North before it unravels. A free North cannot mean a starving North. Jon met her gaze. Come with me, then. Winterfell still has harvests stored in its cellars. We can open them to every village Bolton marches through. Her brows rose, equal parts challenge and curiosity. Will your northern lords accept a foreign queen beside their king? The lords follow those who feed them, Jon said. Titles weigh less than bread. A sudden gust rattled the parapet. Davos drew his cloak close. Ravens first, horses after. If we gallop now without warning, the North may mistake dragons for another invading army. Daenerys nodded. I'll have Tyrion compose letters. His words earn trust better than mine of late. 3 ravens. 1 to Lady Mormont, 1 to White Harbor, 1 to Hornwood. If the young bear believes, the rest will listen. Jon's half-smile came unbidden. Lyanna will question everything, especially guest rights. Then invite her to question. Daenerys extended a hand. We break no wheels in the North. We mend them. Jon clasped it. Ghost snuffled at her gauntlet. She rubbed the direwolf's scarred ear as if greeting an old companion. A thin warmth sparked. Promise, not passion, and then they released. Below, in Flea Bottom's crooked alleys, Arya knelt beside a shallow pit where Faith militant brothers heaped corpses of Braavosi clerks and Bolton pikemen alike. No distinction in death. She plucked 2 nails from a flayed man banner, slid them into her boot. Steel was steel when the time came. Gendry emerged from a tanner's shed nearby, arms streaked with soot. We're melting pikes, he said, making pruning hooks and cooking forks. City needs fewer spears, more spoons. Arya wiped soot on her thighs. Keep 1 spear for me. You've needle. Needles for living men. Spears for dead ones. Her eyes flicked northward. If Roose reaches Winterfell, Mother's bones will hang on his gates. Gendry's hammer hung loose at his belt. Then we'll stand the causeway ahead of him. A touch of nervous bravado clouded his tone. He'd never faced wargs or White Walkers, but he feared nothing in a forge. Arya gave half a nod, half smile. Tell the hound I need his bow. Long draw, quiet shot. He's busy drinking himself blind. Fetch him before he dies, she said, and was gone, ghosting past broken carts and braziers where fishwives warmed numb hands. In the vast cellar beneath the Red Keep, Qyburn bent over the remains of Ser Robert Strong. Green blisters still hissed from wildfire-touched bone. The necromancer dropped powdered dragonglass into the open chest cavity. Smoke curled, smelling faintly of myrrh. Death, he whispered, is disobedience, but obedience can be taught. He sutured veins with silver wire, humming an old lullaby taught to him by Sister Silence in the black cells of Old Town. Each stitch was a promise the realm would regret. Beside the slab stood Cersei, unshackled for the moment, wrists bound instead by leather straps Qyburn controlled. She watched him work, eyes bright with a fever that no maester could bleed. Make him stronger, she urged. No helm this time. Let them see what they thought they killed. More tendons, then. Sinew from those who won't miss it. Qyburn nodded to a crate where the hands of Braavosi collectors lay pickled. A queen's subjects, even in death. Cersei's lip curled. They were never my subjects. Then neither will he be your servant, Qyburn said softly. A creation answers only its creator. Cersei's rage flickered, but she had no allies left to slay the surgeon. Just make sure he answers Jon Snow. 3 levels up, Tyrion sat at a trestle cluttered with new scrolls. His quill scratched arguments into margins. Grain duty suspended 6 moons. Iron tariffs limited to lighthouse upkeep. Coin minted with direwolf and dragon both. He paused, stared at the ink. Power used to be a sword. Now it was percentages. Fewer heads rolled, yet hunger cut deeper than steel. A breeze rattled shutters. Sansa entered, wearing plain wool. The people cheer the bread, she said. But they still fear your queen's fire. They'll fear winter more. They've known winter every year. They've never known dragons. She laid a sheaf beside him, Samwell's treaty copy. This buys you time. Bread buys you love. But only justice keeps it. Tyrion met her eyes. Justice for whom? For girls traded like coins. For small folk starved while bankers bank. For bastards named Snow and refused seats at councils. She inhaled. For Joffrey's ghosts. For Ned. Tyrion's fingers tightened on quill. Your list is long. We have winter, she said, and left. That night, the first true storm of the season struck. Wind bellowed through breaches in the city wall. Towers groaned. The sea hurled spray across quays where half-sunk galleys bobbed like severed heads. In the dragon pit, Regal roared at thunder, flames leaping between broken arches. Far to the north, beyond Roose Bolton's fleeing host, that same storm hammered Winterfell's ramparts and rattled shuttered windows at Moletown atop the old rail line. And north of that, upon the ice road of the shivering sea, blue shadows stirred where the others gathered strength. Their scouts, gaunt and many-eyed, sniffed southward, smelling blood and famine and the lightless spaces left by shattered vows. 2 days later, Jon, Daenerys, and a column of 600, unsullied, free-folk archers and 100 Vale knights, rode from King's Gate. Snow fell thick as feathers. Behind them, Tyrion marshaled masons to close breaches before spring floods, and Davos remained to ensure the grain convoy emptied into honest mouths, not hoarders' vaults. Sansa joined the northern column, clad in direwolf cloak pinned with a dark ruby. Arya rode point with Sandor grudging behind, a barrel of pitch strapped to his saddle. Ghost loped ahead, nostrils steaming. Drogon soared overhead, black ghost against white sky. Regal followed, but Viserion rested lame from wildfire scorch, tended by chainless maesters in the old dragon forges. They passed mileposts scorched by war. At Sow's Horn they found a hamlet strung with 9 flayed corpses. Message Roose left. Unsullied cut them down, built a pyre. At the inn at the crossroads they traded coin for ale, only to discover the innkeep's children lay fevered and dying, water fouled by corpses clogging trident tributaries. Daenerys knelt and spooned barley broth into a girl's mouth while Sansa brewed willow bark. Jon watched embers in hearth and wondered if thrones were worth any of this. On the 4th night, they overtook Bolton's baggage near Maidenpool. Wagons stuck in snow, oxen dead, soldiers' teeth chattering too hard to curse. Roose's rearguard refused parley. Arrows flew, dragons roared, surrender followed swift. Ramsay's corpse still dangled from Jon's saddle as proof of fate. The Bolton host disintegrated into deserters. Some fled north, some begged mercy and were bound for trial. Roose himself vanished, abandoned his men in storm's hush. Arya found his tent empty but for a ledger sewn of flayed skin, each page neat with names owed. Walder Frey, 2 red-haired maids. Jon Snow, 1 kingdom. Arya Stark, a throat. Daenerys Targaryen, dragons 3. She closed the book, pricked her fingertip, and wrote beside her name, paid. As the column pressed into the neck of the trident, scouts brought word that Roose had veered west, aiming for the coast to sail by Reaver vessel to Dreadfort. Jon cursed. Daenerys whistled Regal lower. We cut him off, she said. Take half our strength, wolves and wings. So Jon rode with 100 picked spears, Arya at his left, Gendry and Sandor at right. Regal shadowed them above. They reached Maiden's Shield at dusk and found Bolton pinned to shore. Tide gone out, longships grounded on mudflats. Men sloshed knee-deep hauling chests of dusky woman wine and sacks of Wintertown silver. The shore reeked of despair. Battle erupted again. Quick, fierce, half unseen amid sleet. Ghost tore throats. Arya's spear thrust and spun like viper. Gendry's hammer caved helms. Jon carved toward the standard bearing a pale pink man. He found Roose on a dappled mare, blade red, cloak blotched darker. Surrender and stand trial, Jon called. Trial, Roose mused. The wolf begs the flayer for confession? Bolton charged, quick, silent. Their blades rang once, twice. Bolton's parry slid too slow. Longclaw took his sword hand. Blood jetted. Even then he smiled, flinging a needle-slim dagger with left hand. Arya intercepted, spinning spear but to knock it away. Jon's next swing took Bolton's head half off. No smile now. Snow thickened, muffling victory cheers. At dawn, Regal set fire to the dead, green flame laced with black, a funeral for flayed past. John shoveled earth over the ashes himself. He turned to Arya. Come home. She wiped sweat and snow from brow. Soon. Where then? North of home. She looked beyond, toward white horizon. The list grows small, but winter's list grows long. He clasped her forearm. Two siblings reborn in death's shadow, then climbed into saddle. Their armies would march for Winterfell with news of final Bolton fall. For the King's Road now lay free of pink horror. In King's Landing, Tyrion received ravens. Roose dead, host dissolved. He read the message to Davos on the newly repaired stone bridge spanning the Blackwater. Barges below ferried timber to rebuild Fisher wharfs. One enemy down, Tyrion said. Thousands to feed still. The grain holds, Davos replied. But spring must come soon or none of this matters. A hush fell. They both looked to the north as if they might see snowline creeping ever southward. Tyrion shivered. Do you believe the tales Sam tells? Dead men walking, pale spiders on ice. I've seen shadows kill, Davos said. I put little past the dark now. Tyrion breathed in sea salt air. Then right to Sam again. If the wall falls, we need more than dragons. We need lanterns in every heart of Westeros. Davos's smile was worn thin but real. Hope compounded at 10%? Interest forgiven, Tyrion answered. Beyond the wall, the dead stirred beneath Aurora bright sky. Cracks spidered through the ice crown of the fist of the first men. A horn once broken sounded in silence. A call older than kingdoms, summoning shadows south. Blue eyes opened by tens, by hundreds, by thousands, each reflecting the same image. Smoky throne room, dragon sigil, iron daggers of chair. Winter's ledger bore no loopholes, no renegotiated terms. The final collector marched, and all debts would come due. Weeks later, Jon's host reached Winterfell. Snowdrifts coated battlements, yet hearth fires blazed welcoming. Sansa embraced him in courtyard. Bran rolled forth on wooden-wheeled chair, eyes distant. Lyanna Mormont saluted sword over heart. Tormund Giantsbane clapped Jon's shoulder, boasting of building latrines bigger than King's Bed. Daenerys landed regal on Godswood clearing. The weirwood's red eyes watched as dragon bowed its neck. Northmen murmured, half awed, half afraid. Dany dismounted, hands bare though air bit. I bring grain for halls, seed for fields, and peace for walls, she said to the assembly. We came as conquerors once. We come now as comrades. Upon the rampart Jon raised Longclaw high. The wars of crowns are ended. The war for dawn begins. The roar that answered was not cheer but vow. Throats lifted with grim resolve. That night beneath Winterfell's stars a great council gathered in Queen's Tower. Wildlings, Karstarks, Glover, Manderly, Arryn, unsullied captains, even ironborn emissaries under Asha's protection. And in the midst of heated talk of dragonglass mines and watchtower garrisons, Bran's voice, soft, clear, cut through. The Night King rides for the last river. He will reach it by new moon. A hush fell colder than the storm It sighed. Sansa's hand found Jon's. Daenerys met Tyrion's startled stare across the map-strewn table. No one doubted the boy who dreamed wood and sky. Jon breathed out slow. Then we ride before him, Northmen and Southerners, free folk and Vale Knights, dwarfs and dragons. His eyes met Daenerys's. Bankers can tally our costs later. Tonight we count only living. She nodded, fierce. Dragons fly to last river at dawn. Tyrion dipped quill into ink. At the top of fresh parchment he wrote, Treaty of Winterfell, articles against the night. He left room for many seals. Wolf, dragon, stag, kraken, sunspear, rose, trout, wheel, and seven-pointed star. Perhaps even Titan of Bravos if Tycho dared the cold. As torches guttered low, ghostly flakes drifted through cracks in shutter hinges, quiet and soft as ashes from a million burnt ledgers. Outside, the dark wood rustled with secret footsteps. Arya vanished beyond the walls again, single spear in hand, hunting some distant name. In the crypts below, stone kings wore crowns of frost, listening. War, true war, would come with the new moon, and whether iron, gold, or dragonfire had ruled the realm before, now only ice and night mattered. The Iron Throne stood far away, unclaimed, repossessed by silence for a while longer. Winterfell's forges rang, dragons screamed to sky, and the realm once broken by debt braced to pay a final price not measured in coin but in dawn itself. The ravens leave Winterfell before the first gray hint of dawn, black wings veering into the pale sky like ink spilled upon parchment. They carry the seals of wolf and dragon alike, bound for White Harbor, Deepwood Motte, the Sisters, Skagos, the Watch on the Wall, even Lonely Bear Island where Lyanna Mormont's banner yet snaps in gales sharp as a smith's rasp. Below the rookery, the castle lumbers awake in bitter cold. Smoke twists from chimneys, mingling with low clouds to paint the horizon the color of iron. Every courtyard clatters with hammer song, every stable yard rings with snorts of restive horses being saddled. Every hall reverberates with barked orders about rationing oats, sharpening axes, parceling out dragonglass arrowheads. Jon stands in the Godswood before dawn, snow blanketing the footprints he left only hours ago. The weirwood's red leaves are rimed with hoarfrost. The carved face appears half asleep, half in agony. He sinks to one knee and touches the pulpy heart tree trunk, feeling cold seep into his bones. Ghost looms, silent, a pale sentinel at his side. "I swore an oath to the Night's Watch," Jon says to the stillness. "Now I fight as king, as brother, as bastard, as whatever shield the living need." He closes his eyes, remembering Maester Aemon's faint rasp. "Kill the boy." The boy feels long dead, yet the man bears wounds the child could not dream. "Let this be the last dawn the dead ever see," he murmurs. Far across the bailey, Daenerys Targaryen stands on a stone balcony overlooking the training yard. Rhaegal perches upon the ruined tower of the first keep, tail swishing like a cat awaiting a mouse. Frost crackles along the dragon's back in a lattice that glitters pink under sunrise. She lifts a gloved hand. Rhaegal's head tilts and a low croon rumbles from a maw large enough to swallow a destrier. Down below, unsullied drill in perfect ranks, shield walls locking, spears bristling. Beside them kneel free folk archers, faces tattooed, fletching arrows tipped with dragonglass blades blacker than midnight across the Dothraki Sea. Winter is a strange theater, all the world's scattered peoples drawn to one stage. At the smithy, Arya hammers spearheads beneath Gendry's watchful eye. Each blow sparks tiny suns into the half-light, and she counts them. 1 name, 2 names, 3, forging death for the dead. The hound props himself against a wall, hung over, gnawing a heel of bread. "You worry that spear'll slip and skewer your pretty foot," he growls. "I worry it won't skewer enough whites," Arya answers, nose wrinkling at acrid smoke. Her eyes gleam above the red tint of the forge. She tests a newly cooled point on her thumb until a bead of blood wells up. Satisfied, she quenches it and sets another billet to heat. In the great hall, Tyrion unfurls a fresh hide of parchment across the map table. The room bustles, Davos bringing harbor reports of White Harbor ships, Lady Asha Greyjoy, no longer styling herself queen, stomping snow from boots as she sketches kraken routes along the stony shore, Maester Wolkan measuring out Raven Seed, Podrick Payne reading off muster counts from the Vale. Sansa sits at the high seat, but she wears neither crown nor circlet, only a fur-lined gown dyed dusk blue, calmly signing off each figure. "Write that White Harbor sends 30 river barges," she tells Podrick. "Their holds to be filled with barley, oats, and beans. Leave the holdfast garrisons half their stores. The rest must move tonight. Ice will close the White Knife any hour." Davos points at the map. "If the Night King fords the last river where Bran foresaw, here, this bend below Greywater, he can bypass Moat Cailin. Dead need no roads, but we need trenches." His finger drags a line of ink south. "We hold at the last river crossing, then at Moat Cailin, then at the neck if we fail. After that, Winterfell, Tyrion taps quill against teeth. Moat Caelan's towers crumble. The mucky causeway is defensible if we flood it. He circles a damp region with blotch of brown. Dig channels from the lagoon. Dam them with felled pines. Break them when the dead approach. Too slow, Asha says, scratching at a fresh scab over her eyebrow. Better we strike, not stand. My shield maidens and ironborn reavers sail the western branches of the river, landing behind his van. Burn his supply of silence. Tyrion lifts a brow. The dead do not carry supplies. They carry dread, she retorts. We'll burn that. Bran wheels in, pushed by Samwell. The boy's eyes look through centuries. He comes by night, Bran whispers. He will not linger at Moat Caelan. He remembers failing there long ago. He seeks broken places, gaps in walls, cracks in hearts. Sam shivers though embers glow in the hearth. We need every last obsidian blade at the crossing. We can't scatter them along the neck. He rolls out a dusty scroll describing dragonglass extraction from Skagos, annotations made by old Maester Willis centuries back. Sansa meets Tyrion's gaze. We fight at the last river, then we fall back, one line at a time. Quietly she adds, and if Winterfell falls, we burn the crypts. We cannot let the dead raise our ancestors. Tyrion nods, jaw clenched. No sweeter task than kindling 1,000 years of history. By noon, steel point clouds blanket the sky. Columns of men tramp out under flurries that sting like sand. Jon rides at the head of the northern host. Karstark cavalry in patchwork mail, Hornwood bowmen with foxfur cloaks, stolid White Harbor billmen. Free folk scouts trot alongside upon rangy mountain ponies. Tormund leads a knot of giantkin, mere half-giants by giant standards, each carrying a club as thick as a ship's mast. Sansa kisses Jon's cheek before he swings into saddle. "Don't die," she says simply. "Not before you," he answers with a crooked half-smile. She attempts a stern glare, but her eyes glisten. "Bring Arya back alive, and the Hound if you must." He squeezes her hand. "I'll settle for Arya." Daenerys circles overhead on Regal once, twice, then wings south-southeast, scouting. Her silver hair streams behind. For a dazzling moment, sun breaks through snow clouds, setting hair ablaze like molten platinum. Children gape from battlements. The old gods and the new alike watch through eyes of bark and glass. The march takes 2 days through knee-deep drifts, at times forcing men to crawl across ice-sheathed reeds where marsh conceals freezing water. They lose a cart of onions to a hidden pool. 3 horses founder and are put down. At night, they camp around braziers fed with driftwood hauled from white knife barges. Jon walks the perimeter each hour, checking that sentries remain awake. One Karstark lad slumps, eyelids drooping. Ghost's sudden growl startles him alert. Jon says nothing, but the boy will remember. The moon waxes half-bright by the time they reach the last river crossing. The ford is little more than a stony shelf beneath black, slow current. Ancient willows lean over banks like wizened crones. On the far shore stands Greywater Watch, no grand castle, merely a Mott and Bailey island that drifts in the swampy backwaters of myth. It appears and vanishes with fog. Sometimes it sits where no island existed the day prior. Howland Reed meets Jon at midstream, parting reeds with a spear tipped in dragonglass carved from the Dawn Age. The Cronogman Lord looks scarcely older than Bran remembered him. Slim, gray-haired, eyes bright with secret knowing. "You bring fire." Howland touches the spear tip to Regal's shadow rippling on the river. "But here water quenches everything. Fire will fly above," Jon says, "and iron will hold here." Reed's lips twitch. The neck holds to no iron but that of faith. Yet will stand. That day they dig pits on North Bank, filling them with sharpened stakes of ash wood. Free folk lash ropes between hidden stumps waist high. Unsullied plant shields into frozen mud like scales of a waiting beast. At twilight, Arya steps out onto the shallows, water lapping her calves. She stares north across the plain where snow shimmers under blue evening light. In the hush, she thinks she hears a horn, distant and hollow as wind through tombstones. Far away, at Eastwatch by the sea, the wall groans. Cracks radiate from the gap left by Viserian's strike years earlier. Maester Frail, last of the Watch's scholars, takes up quill to chronicle the coming of the end. He never finishes the sentence. A shadow passes his tower window. Gray wings of unlife, frost-rimmed, dripping silence. An ice-white wyvern spawned in Viserian's wake scrapes claws along broken parapets, then leaps from the wall with a shriek that turns the marrow of every man below to slush. The garrison flees south toward Hardhome ruins, leaving torches guttering in snow. Above them, the Night King rides a dead horse whose hooves strike sparks of rime upon the stone. He studies the sea, where floes grind together beneath a sky as flat and white as a glacier's heart. He raises one gaunt hand. Corpses encased within the wall, ancient offerings to beasts long banished, shiver awake. They crawl forth, eyes frost blue. Crystals sprout along sinews as they descend skull-torn stairways. Some still wear rusted black cloaks of the Watch. Some clutch swords that crumble at first swing. The Night King turns south. Last river camp. Samwell Tarly pores over leather-bound fragments of Valyrian glyphs by lamplight. His spectacles fog from steam rising off kettle of snowmelt. Gilly dozes beside the fire, little John curled in blankets. Sam's trembling finger underlines a line once impossible, now suddenly clear. When the pale storm comes, stone remembers heat. He blinks, adjusts lens. Could it be reference to dragonglass veins heating under dragonfire, sending pulse through land? Beside him, Bran's eyes roll white as he wargs into flock of crows circling north. Sam swallows. What do you see? Bran's pupils return, glassy and wide. A forest of spears grown of bone. A river frozen into a sword. He grips Sam's wrist. They will cross before the third watch. We have one night. John convenes captains in a willow grove. ING wrists, staggers clear. The whole churns, but no king emerges. Across the field, the white ranks hesitate, falter for first time. Many collapsing lifeless as if strings cut. Giant whites topple. Archers cheer. Tormund bellows victory. Yet Bran gasps, not slain, sleeping. Stone remembers heat, but cold forgets only for a breath. His eyes film white again. He sinks to dark to quench, then rises stronger. We must close the wound. John returns to line, soaked trousers frosting stiff. Davos tends ghosts shallow wound. Sam distributes newly tempered dragonglass heads. Archers fire them. When these red-veined heads strike whites, they burst in white fire that spreads, consuming clusters like wildfire across tinder. Sam prays each shot. Gilly reloads quivers. Night drags on. Moon sets. The frozen ford becomes battlefield layered in corpses. Human, giant, dragon-scorched, and more whites than living souls left in the north. Yet dawn's edge glimmers faint. Snow slows, wind drops. John leans on Longclaw. Hold, he calls hourly voice hoarse. Hold until sunrise. Fire rises with us. He lifts eyes upward to faint stars indifferent to human breath. Beneath the river, in darkness colder than the void beyond moons, the Night King drifts. Steam coils off his armor where dragonflame kissed. Cracks spider his chestplate. Blue luminescence seeps from them. He thinks, if thinking is what this ancient echo does, of war waged millennia, of treaties forgotten, of children's blood spilled upon weirwood roots. He opens eyes like crystallized tears. From black sediment he lifts an icicle double-bladed. Groan from anguish. He thrusts upward. Dawn's first beam stretches across horizon. Trumpets of White Harbor ships echo upriver. On South Bank soldiers cheer. Fear loosens its grip. Then the river explodes. Ice shatters in 20-yard radius, shards propelled like razors. Men near bank scream, shredded. A pillar of water and frost climbs skyward. Within stands the Night King reborn, fractures sealed, eyes burning brighter than dawn. He raises arms. Across battlefield, every corpse stirs anew. Even those slain by dragonglass awaken, though half-melted faces slump. The dead outnumber living 2 to 1 once more. Tyrion, arriving with Vale Vanguard just in time to see hope crumble, mutters, "We need new sums." Jon rallies. "Form center." But lines are scattered. Branches crack overhead. Willows uprooted by ice surge crash onto entrenchments. Daenerys wheels Drogon, but frost crystals coat his wings, stiffening sinews. Rhaegal roars challenge, then dives. Blue spears of ice fling from Night King's hands, shards spinning like scythes. One pierces Rhaegal's shoulder, embedding deep, glowing azure. Dragon screeches, thrashes. Daenerys screams command. Rhaegal flaps erratically but remains airborne. The Night King strides across fractured ford unfazed by returning river flow. Each step freezes water solid. He is inches from South Shore when sudden song pierces roar of combat. A clear, high-pitched note, crystalline, from somewhere above Treeline. The Night King hesitates. All whites cease motion momentarily like puppets waiting instruction. Howland Reed emerges from swamp hazel brush, holding a curved horn carved of weirwood root and engraved with runes older than men. He blows again. Note vibrates through marrow. At his side stands Mira, eyes shining wet. Reed speaks in tongue forgotten, syllables snapping like twigs in frost. The horn glows faint green. Bran's head jerks. He gasps, hands lifting of their own accord. Leaves of distant weirwoods rustle though no wind blows, ripple outward as if in silent scream. The ground beneath the Night King's feet softens. Ice collapses, water gushes, yet he floats upon new frost forming instant. Reed's chant grows louder. Hearttree leaves whirlwind around Bran, though they came from miles away. The Night King's footing stutters. Frost forms slower. He glares at Reed, recognition flashes, and for first time his expression cracks into something like fury. Arya seizes moment. She sprints along muddy bank, leaps across flows toward ice shelf directly behind Night King. Snowflakes freeze on her lashes. She draws the spear broken to half-length earlier, tip red-veined obsidian. She hurls. The spear whistles. At the last instant, a swirl of wind knocks it aside. Bran's wind falters. Jon charges through cluster of fresh whites, hacking path. Ghost returns, flank bleeding but eyes aflame. They reach steeds waiting. Jon mounts half-dead stallion. He gallops inland along bank, then veers fording higher shallows behind Night King, Longclaw blazing with dawnlight. Reed's chant reaches crescendo. The Night King raises hand to shatter him. A blinding dawn beam breaks horizon, lancing between cloud layers to strike Longclaw's Valyrian steel. Blade flares with white fire. Jon feels surge as if lightning through veins. He leaps from saddle, drives sword into ice at Night King's feet. Steam erupts, ice melts. The Night King falls knee-deep into boiling water. Jon swings upward. The ice spear intercepts. Steel and frost meet with deafening crack. Valyrian blade chips but holds. Ice makes high-pitched wail. The Night King swipes free, claws Jon's chest with gauntlet. Mail turns to icicles. Flesh beneath numbs. Bran's last breath leaves his lips. His eyes flash green gold. 1,000 ravens scream overhead and dive, pecking at Night King's visor, clawing eyes. Night King swats once. Ravens burst in black snow. Yet that heartbeat is enough. Arya is on him again. She emerges from water behind, soaked but blazing with will. She flips blade from left to right hand midair, plunges obsidian dagger into gap beneath Night King's jaw. A sound like cracking glacier echoes across marsh. Blue light flares from wound, flickers, spiderwebs along cuirass and limbs. Night King's hand clamps around Arya's throat. Frost blossoms along her jaw. She grits teeth, pushes deeper. Light brightens, then implodes, strobing white. Night King shatters. As shards of ice tumble, every white collapses. Giants keeling, bones cascading. Frost spiderwebs along river dissipate, water surges. Arya tumbles into Jon's arms. He drags her to shore. Her throat reddens with frostbite. He presses warm palm until color returns. She chokes a laugh. Told you I'd spear him. Jon's smile cracks, then widens. He looks to Bran across battlefield. Bran's head sags forward, Reed and Mira catch him. Slowly Bran lifts gaze and nods. Thank you, though lips barely move. Across lines a hush spreads. Then cheers. Ragged, exhausted, but rising like sunrise itself. Unsullied lift spears. Free folk beat shields. Karstarks blow obsidian whistles. Even giant kin thunder drums upon hollow logs of their own fallen. Drogon and regal circle then land. Noses touching, wings drooped. Snow slows to gentle flutter. In Winterfell weeks later, ravens bring news across breadth of kingdom. Eastwatch reports no more dead. Hardhome survivors gather for boats south. White Harbor fleets escort grain north. Storms abate. The wall still stands, though cracked, but men of watch rebuild. Jon stands atop battlements beside Daenerys, looking south where cloudless sky spreads pale blue. We should ride for King's Landing, claim throne, settle debts, he says. She shakes head, hair loose. Let throne wait. I've learned ruling means seeing people fed, not crowned. Spring will come. Fields must be plowed. Tyrion arrives with parchment. Iron Bank accepts new charter. Interest halved again. Braavos granting seed loans to rebuild harbor. Tycho's bruises faded, but his respect for living burnished. Sansa oversees lines of orphans learning letters in the hall once ruled by Boltons, teaching them to spell hope with charcoal on slate. Gendry and Gilly run infirmary forging crutches of ash and maple. Sam writes Chronicle of the Dawn War, dedicating it to all unborn. Bran sits beneath Heart Tree, fingers tapping chair spoke in rhythms echoing Reed's horn. Cycle closed, he murmurs, but memory remains. Arya departs through Broken Tower Gate with Sandor and a map of Sunset Sea. She smiles over shoulder. Stark Pack survives, she tells Jon. Always, he answers. Snow melts into rivulets trickling from ramparts. In Muddy Yard, first crocus spears burst purple through thaw, defiantly bright against gloom. Jon holds Daenerys' hand, ghost leaning heavy against his hip, warmth returning. Somewhere far down the King's Road, the Iron Throne rusts where no one sits yet. Ravens perch upon swords grown dull. But in the north, hearts beat again. And debts, at last, are paid not in coin or blood, but in dawn's fragile light, priceless, shared by all. The snow keeps falling, soft now, gentle, a whisper of yesterday's wrath. Each flake kisses earth and melts, as if winter itself has learned mercy.